Chapter 1503. A while later, Wang Sieg's boat approached. After receiving permission, Wang Sieg and Captain Rode boarded the Hydra. "Hello, we meet again." Chen Zhao stood up with a smile. Wang Sieg and Rode looked at the four people on the deck. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai both had children in their arms. They'd also prepared a lot of food. It seemed to be enough for dozens of people. "Hello, I'm Wang Sieg. This is our captain, Rode is Spider. I'm Chen Zhao. This is the mother of my two children, Fei Lai." After getting to know each other, Chen Zhao said, "Aren't you going to call your crew over? I have plenty of food here." "Of course, if you agree." Chen Zhao could tell that Wang Sieg's group was not in the same group as Dolson's group that had come in the morning. As the hostess, Fei Lai was in charge of entertaining the friends she'd made at sea. Little Jerlin, on the other hand, ran here and there. "I'm Little Jerlin. Hello. Hello." The crew members were all very friendly and greeted Jerlin warmly. Chen Zhao, Wang Sieg, and Rode leaned against the railing and chatted. "Mr. Chen, you're a spiritualist too, right?" "Obviously." Chen Zhao shrugged and did not deny it. "So, if I may ask, do you know Dolson?" "Oh, you mean the guys I fed to the sharks today? Dolson's dead?" They'd thought of this possibility, but they'd thought that it wasn't likely. Now that Chen Zhao admitted it, they had no choice but to believe it. "If you're his friends, I hope you can do it after the party. If you're not, I hope we can be friends. We're enemies with Dolson, not friends." "Then what organization are you from?" "We're hunters. Dolson is our enemy." "Are you hunters who specialize in fighting spiritualists? Or superheroes and villains like in movies?" "Neither. We only target Dolson and the organization behind him because we have a feud. Their crimes are secondary." "Then what's your function and theirs?" "Of course, if it's not convenient for you to answer, you don't have to say. We're not a secret organization. Our organization is still very famous. Our organization was founded in the early 18th century and has a history of 200 years. Our organization has a very famous hunter, Van Helsing. There are even movies about him. You should have heard of him, right?" "Oh, I've heard of it. The story of Van Helsing and Dracula." Chen Zhao had learned about Van Helsing's story from the movies. Chen Zhao knew about the Dracula family, but even Murphy and his mother didn't know if they really existed. To put it bluntly, the movie he had watched back then was the story of Van Helsing and Dracula's love-hate relationship. Actually, most of his stories are fabricated. Of course, it's true that he's a very powerful hunter. "Hunters are a group," Wang Sieg said. "It's also a symbol of identity. We're like mercenaries, accepting employment and magic services." "What about Dawson's organization?" "A group of criminals, villains, lunatics, cultists, and idiots. It's similar to the supervillains in the movies, just smaller in scale." "How so?" "The biggest one they've ever planned was to control a governor. And then they succeeded in controlling the governor, and then the governor stepped down after 16 days in office. This group of idiots thought that by directly controlling the highest power in a political system, they could steal the entire political system." Chen Zhao also felt that it was quite stupid. They really thought this was like in a movie. Evil organizations could control the president and then control the entire country. Take America, for example. If the president released a few unreliable proposals, the House of Representatives and Senate would slap him in the face. His proposals wouldn't even be able to leave the White House. Unless the evil organization could control all the members of the House of Representatives and Senate, there was no use in controlling the president. Even if some evil organization could really control all the counselors, these counselors were supported by capitalists. These capitalists all had their own political demands. If these counselors were disobedient, the biggest possibility was that they would be sent home to farm or sent to political prison. Other times, they're no different from normal robbers or just a criminal organization, Wang Sieg said. Wang Sieg said, "Last time, they gathered a few people and tried to earn enough money in the Las Vegas casinos. In the end, one of their legs was broken after they won $500,000. Their collective funds, including medical fees, are more than $500,000. Chen Zhao found it strange. These guys look worse than normal criminals. Why do I feel like they're really stupid? It's just from a different perspective. Normal criminals will have all sorts of plans to commit crimes because they don't have any supernatural powers. However, these people think that they can do whatever they want with magic, so most of their actions are anticlimactic. However, there's still a few small gangs. They are not idiots, they are real criminals. They will not fantasize about wild plans, nor will they daydream about ruling the world. They will only do very practical things, such as murder and arson. There is nothing they would not do. You mean Dawson and the others? Dawson is just a small leader. He's indeed difficult to deal with. I've been chasing him for 10 years, but he escapes every time. There were idiots who got carried away after obtaining power. But of course, there were also clear-headed criminals. Criminals with supernatural powers and clear-headed were the most troublesome. Of course, Chun Zhao had met them in Los Angeles. He'd met both. But in Los Angeles, Chun Zhao could deal with all troubles and enemies, so the ratio of supernatural crimes in Los Angeles was very low. Wang Xig said so much to Chun Zhao because she wanted him to join her organization or become a hunter. However, Chun Zhao wasn't interested. If someone appeared before Chun Zhao, he wouldn't need to be a hunter. He would take care of them easily. However, Chun Zhao wouldn't run around chasing crazy criminals with all sorts of magical spells all day. He wouldn't do something so strenuous and unrewarding. Please remember the original domain name of this book, Nine Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1504. Wang Xig's mouth went dry, but Chun Zhao didn't accept it. She told him the pros and cons. She even said that it didn't matter what background Chun Zhao had. It didn't matter even if he was a Chinese spy. Hunters didn't care about background. They just needed to not do anything wrong. Chun Zhao could even get a commission if he took on a mission occasionally. Unfortunately, Chun Zhao really didn't care about the commission. The brewery earned tens of millions of dollars for him every month. Did he care about a few $100,000 last time? Moreover, for such a mission to fall into the hands of a newbie, it would definitely be a troublesome mission with no benefits. Maybe a few days, or even a few weeks to complete a mission. Chun Zhao wouldn't accept it unless he was crazy. Mr. Chun, you're here for the durian mission, right? Sort of, Chun Zhao said calmly. I'm just here to join in the fun. Mr. Chun, if you become a hunter, you can buy or sell the notes from other hunters. What notes? Chun Zhao was stunned. Wang Xig and Rode both stared at him in shock. You're here to join the operation against the Turin ghost ship, but you don't know about the notes of the heroes? Don't tell me you don't have any organization. What's the use of the notes? To record merits, of course, Wang Xig said. When Ku Xig said, for example, there were hundreds of spiritualists involved in the operation on the Tour Inspector ship. If we didn't have the notes of the heroic spirits, how would we know their achievements? As the founder, Blood Mary can't give everyone a recorder, right? Do you have the notes? Let me see. Chun Zhao really hadn't heard of it before. Before hearing Wang Xig talk about the notes, Chun Zhao had wondered how the Scarlet Church would know who contributed more and who didn't. Wang Xig didn't hide it. After all, the notes were too common. One book cost $1,000, and there was a discount in bulk. On Arma Island, everyone had one. Even if someone couldn't afford it, a few people could buy one together. Wang Xig saw that Chun Zhao was clearly rich, so she wasn't worried that he'd steal it. Chun Zhao took the notes. It looked like a normal notebook, but there was a faint magical aura on it. He flipped through it. There was nothing inside. How? Chun Zhao asked. As long as you have the heroic spirit notebook with you, it will record the process of the battle and the results of the battle. Can you demonstrate? Chun Zhao asked. Wang Xig looked at him. Mr. Chun, do we try it here? No problem. Then should I attack you now? Wang Xig reminded him. After all, if he accidentally hurt her, it could easily cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Yes, please. All right, I'll make my move. With that, Wang Xig's blonde hair suddenly shot toward Chun Zhao and wrapped around him. Although it was an active attack, the damage was basically within Wen Ku Xig's control. She could control the growth of her hair, and if she wanted to kill an enemy, the power of her hair was even greater than that of a python, and could directly strangle an ordinary person to death. However, Wang Xig let go of Chun Zhao after demonstrating. A line of words appeared on the notebook. using magic to attack enemy. Target, human. Ineffective. Battle over. No casualties. At the same time, the time and location of the battle appeared. The heroic spirit notebook's records were rather rough. There weren't any types of spells. The notebook belonged to Wen Xig, so the enemy in it was obviously Chun Zhao. However, the notebook could identify what type of enemy it was. Chun Zhao returned the notebook to Wen Xig. Can the battle records of the heroic spirit's notebook be given to others? In principle, no, Wen Xig said. Wen Xig said, however, the 23rd Blood Mary doesn't forbid a few people or a team or even an organization from using the same notebook of heroes. Then, one of them can claim the prize. Therefore, in this operation, it's more advantageous to have an organization than to fight alone. Do you have extra heroic spirit notebooks? Chun Zhao asked. You really didn't prepare any? Wen Xig still couldn't believe it. Chun Zhao's behavior made him look like a newbie in the supernatural world. He didn't even know about the heroic spirit notebooks. Did he really have the ability to kill Dawson and his companions? If I did, I wouldn't have asked you for it, Chun Zhao said. Do you want the low-level one or the high-level one? What's the difference? Or does the 23rd Blood Mary of the Scarlet Church have any requirements? That's not true. But take my notebook, for example. It's a low-level heroic spirit notebook, and it only records the rough process of a battle. If it's a high-level notebook, it'll be connected to the user's mana, and there will be more detailed records. How much is the low-level one? How much is the high-level one? No matter the price, it shouldn't be a problem for you. I'll get someone to bring you a high-level one. A while later, Wen Xig brought over a high-level heroic spirit notebook. On the surface, it looked no different from a low-level heroic spirit notebook. What do I need to do so it can record my actions? Just send your magic in, Wen Xig said. Wen Xig said, the first person to inject magic power into it will be recorded in the notebook of the hero. Chun Zhao sent his magic in. As expected, he felt a connection with the heroic spirit notebook. You could try to attack me, Wen Xig said. Chun Zhao glanced at her. Then I'll attack. Okay, come on. Pointing at Wen Xig, Chun Zhao cast the green robe's sex spell needle thread. His magic was like a needle, and he poked Wen Xig's arm lightly. Wen Xig was prepared, but she didn't expect Chun Zhao's attack to be silent. Her defenses became useless. Chun Zhao looked at a line of words on the notebook. Use needle thread to ambush the target and cause very, very low damage. Then there was the time and place. It actually recorded the spells he used in detail. But after thinking about it, he understood that it should be because this heroic spirit's notebook was connected to his mana. It's very detailed, but won't it expose my magic? It seems like it's not as good as a low-level heroic spirit notebook. Actually, high-level heroic spirit notebooks are mostly used to record one's battles. It's for reference so that the next time I encounter a similar battle, I can improve it. Chapter 1505. To put it simply, the advanced notes were used to record battles. Low-level heroic spirit notes were used to record achievements and achievements. Soon after, Wen Xig left with her men. The underlings came out to clean up the trash left by the party. Little Jerlin ran to Chun Zhao excitedly. Dad, I met so many new friends just now. How many is a lot? Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Little Jerlin moved her fingers and counted very seriously. But after counting to 5, she couldn't count anymore. Daddy, I don't have enough fingers. Let me sum. Don't you have another hand? You have to keep the other hand to count. Oh, I see. Chun Zhao handed both hands to Jerlin. Little Jerlin started counting again. 1, 2, 6, 10, then 1 more, 2 more, 3 more, 4 more, 5 more. Daddy, it's done. 10, 5 more. Done. Yes, I don't want more, Jerlin said proudly. Just 10, 5 more. Why don't you want more? Because Jerlin can't count anymore. 10, 5 more is enough. How about you lend me Mom's fingers too? In fact, there were about 20 crew members on Wen Xig's ship who came to the party. Jerlin hugged the candy and asked each crew member if they wanted to be friends. If they wanted to be friends, she would give them a candy. Now that she couldn't count anymore, she didn't want any extra friends. At night, Chen Zhao's family was asleep. However, the underlings in charge of navigation were still at their posts. The yacht could sail automatically as long as the route was set. The underlings still chose to monitor the route to make sure nothing went wrong. The wind and waves were slightly stronger at night. But for the Hydra, the passengers on the yacht didn't feel anything at all. Wink, what do you think of that man? Rich, confident, but also a bit ignorant, Wang Sieg said. But that sense of danger never goes away. He said he killed Dolson and his gang. Is that true? He's stronger than Dolson. There's no doubt about that. At least Dolson doesn't make me feel any danger. Wang Sieg thought for a while and said, his probing attack on me was harmless, but still gave me a fright. There were no signs, and I couldn't sense it. If he wanted to kill me just now, it should have been easy. But Dolson and his gang are all veterans. Are you sure that he can defeat so many people by himself? Maybe we have a chance to test his strength. Test him? Are you sure you want to do this? That's not a good idea. I don't want to make an enemy out of nowhere. No. Didn't you suspect that there's a spy on our ship? This time, Dolson and his gang disappeared. So this spy will definitely spread the news. Dolson's uncle is on Arma Island. When Quebec learns that his nephew was killed, do you think he will sit back and do nothing? Besides, Quebec's wife is here too. Rode frowned and pondered for a while, but he was still a little hesitant. Quebec's wife isn't an ordinary person. That man can't deal with Quebec's wife. Quebec was considered a senior in that gang, but he was only a senior. He wasn't much stronger than his nephew, Dolson. But Quebec was strong because he had a very strong wife. That woman was called Nicole Neptune, but she had many nicknames, such as the Moving Disaster, the Female Tyrannosaurus, and the Glutton. It was said that this woman would eat her enemies. Not cut them into pieces, but directly swallow them. Wang Sieg and Rode had been tracking Dolson and his gang since they came to Los Angeles. But they had a few chances to make a move. But because Quebec and Nicole Neptune were nearby, they didn't dare to make a move. But we can't stop this, Wang Sieg said. Wang Sieg said, so the only thing we can do now is to be prepared and help that man when necessary. They didn't know who the mole was, so they couldn't stop it even if they wanted to. Also, they didn't have any way to intercept information. Technically speaking, they were no different from normal gangs. Ding. Just then, Wang Sieg received a message. Wang Sieg's expression changed when she saw that. The person in charge of monitoring Quebec and Nicole Neptune on Arma Island said that the two of them just left Arma Island at night. Looks like they won't stay overnight, Rhodes said. Rhodes said, but even with us, I'm afraid we won't be able to deal with Nicole Nepos. Unless we don't help her, Wang Sieg said. It's not that. Just inform that man to leave this area. If his super yacht wants to leave, no one can catch it. That's true. I'll message him now. Hello. Who is it? Chen Zhao closed his eyes. He was clearly unhappy about the call at this time. Teacher. It's me. What? Are you nearby? Yes. Chen Zhao looked at the time. It was 1 a.m. Teacher, Jalanash, Bona, Morid, and more didn't eat tonight, Lit Grove said. We don't even have a place to stay. What's wrong? We got into a conflict on the island. All our luggage is gone. I have all the equipment here. I'm circling Arma Island now. Can you come over? After all, they were all on the same side. Chen Zhao didn't want them to suffer. After all, they were still kids. Sure. We rented a speedboat on the island. That's a deserted island. How can you rent a speedboat? Teacher, the island is full of merchants now. They sell everything. Since you're selling everything, why are you looking for me? The trashiest tent costs $1,000. Teacher, do you think we can afford it? You're pretty rich, right? You spend so much money on school. My dad already reduced my weekly expenses, Lit Grove said gloomily. Fine. Come as soon as possible and spend the night on my boat. Chen Zhao stood up carefully, trying not to make a sound. These kids hadn't eaten all day. They must be tired and hungry. He had the underlings prepare some food. Just then, an underling saw Chen Zhao walk out of the bedroom. He immediately ran over. Master, what can I do for you? Prepare some drinks and food. Grove and the others are coming. Chapter 1506. Nicole Neps was violent, ugly, crazy, jealous, and greedy. This was the impression her husband, Quebec, had of her. He was filled with fear and hatred towards Nicole Neps. When he married Nicole Neps, it was Nicole Neps who forced him to marry her. Nicole Neps had told him that if he dared to refuse, she would eat him. That's right, eat him with her mouth. Nicole Neps had eaten many people in front of Quebec. Quebec had never seen a woman more terrifying and crazier than Nicole Neptune. Because of the special magic, Nicole Neps had a height of 2 meters. She weighed an astonishing 400 kilograms. Just by standing there, she was like a fortress. She could easily swallow 3 or 4 people alive without breaking a sweat. At the moment, Quebec and Nicole Neps were on the same yacht. Quebec, if you don't prepare 2 people for me for supper tonight, you're dead, Nico Neptune said unhappily. She was obviously unhappy that Quebec had woken her up in the middle of the night. Quebec's face was pale. Nicole, there will be. I promise, I promise. Plus, you've met Dawson, right? He's Nien's nephew. Now that he's been killed, we should do something. Dawson, I remember now. Nicole Neps licked her lips. What a pity. If I knew he would die here, I would have eaten him the first time he met. Quebec couldn't help but shiver. He had always known that Nicole Neps treated humans as food. However, he didn't expect that even his relatives would be seen as food by Nicole Neps. Then, would he be eaten one day? Quebec shuddered at the thought of this. At this moment, a speedboat rumbled past the yacht the 2 of them were on. Huh, there are a few people on it. Catch them, and we'll have a feast. Nicole Neps' eyes lit up as she looked at the speedboat. Nicole, that's a speedboat. Our yacht isn't that fast. Quebec didn't dare to say that because Nicole Neps was too heavy. The small yacht wasn't fast to begin with, and with Nicole Neps on board, its speed was even slower. But if he said that out loud, Nicole Neptune would eat him up. I don't care. Chase after them. I'm going to eat them. If you can't do it, I'll eat you. Quebec was even more terrified. He already regretted waking Nicole Neptune up because of what happened to Dawson. Don't worry, it's just a speedboat. Although it's fast, its endurance is very poor, Quebec said. The advantage of speedboat was its short-range speed, but because of the problem of the fuel load, it was definitely not as much as a yacht, and the range was at most a dozen nautical miles. Although their yacht wasn't big, it could still travel a few hundred nautical miles. That's great. I can have a full meal, and I can eat as much as I want at sea, Nicole Neps shouted excitedly. Road, there's a small boat heading towards that super yacht. Is it Nicole Neps? So fast. Rhodes' eyes flickered. Shall we go there now? Join hands with that man? Not yet. Rhodes shook his head. Let Nicole Neps fight with that man for a while first. That man's strength shouldn't be weak, and he won't collapse so soon. Pian, did you see the yacht that passed by just now? King Tong said with a solemn face. Yes, I saw it. What's wrong? Do you know the people on that ship? Pian asked curiously. One of the most terrifying witches in the world. The most terrifying witch. When the others heard King Tong's words, they also came over curiously. How terrifying. Is she very powerful? She's a nightmare. King Tong said, I was her enemy more than a decade ago. What happened then? That time, she snatched an inheritance treasure from a family. That family hired over 20 spiritualists, and I was one of them. We only had one mission, and that was to snatch back that family's inheritance treasure. In the end, did you complete the task? No. King Tong shook her head. There were 27 spiritualists, but only 5, including me, are left. The others, were they all killed by that woman? It's more terrifying than death. Everyone was eaten by her. Human beings instinctively rejected the concept of cannibalism. All of them were swallowed by her. King Tong's face was extremely solemn. You can't imagine how terrifying that woman is. She seems to have an immortal body. All magic can't hurt her. Then we watched her eat her companions one by one. It's terrible. Everyone looked back, but because of the vast night at the moment, they could no longer see the yacht. By the way, this is the right direction, isn't it? This speedboat can't go too far. If we go in the wrong direction, we'll be in trouble. It can't be wrong. The teacher has sent me the location, Lit Grove said. There. Bona had already seen the outline of the huge ship in front of them. Even in the darkness of the night, it was still difficult to hide the huge scale of the Hydra. When King Tong and Pian saw the Hydra, they were a little surprised. It was that ship. They had a deep memory of that ship. The Hydra was really too big and luxurious. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Yes, that ship is my teacher's ship. When the speedboat approached the Hydra, they could already see Chan Zhao standing on the bow deck. The yacht slowed down and approached them slowly. When King Tong and Pian boarded the yacht, they were really a little nervous. They had never boarded such a luxurious yacht. Chan Zhao recognized the two of them. Hello, are you friends of Grove and the others? Hello, I'm King Tong, and she's Pian. We met your students on Yuma Island today. Nice to meet you, sir. Hello, they're still children. It's their honor to meet them. I hope you can take care of them on Yuma Island. They're all very powerful and don't necessarily need our care. At this moment, the noise of an engine came from the sea again. The pupils of King Tong and Pian suddenly contracted. The huge body on the approaching yacht made them tremble all over. Hey, another guest is coming. Chen Zhao looked at the yacht that was rushing over. Chapter 1507. Oh no, it's Nicole Neptune. Hurry up and set sail. We can't let that woman get on the boat. King Tong and Pian were both terrified. Grove, take them to eat something to fill their stomachs. I've prepared some cooked food for you, Chen Zhao said. Is there cooked food? Great, we'll have food. However, Pian and King Tong were full of eagerness, especially King Tong. He had fought with Nicole Neptune before. He knew very well how terrifying Nicole Neptune was. But Chen Zhao, Liane Grove, and the others all looked like they didn't care. They didn't panic at all because of Nicole Neptune's arrival. Obviously, they didn't understand what he had said before at all. They didn't understand how terrifying Nicole Neptune was at all. Mr. Chun, you don't understand how terrifying Nicole Neptune is. There's only a glimmer of hope if we all join forces to fight against her. If you think you could defeat Nicole Neptune one-on-one, you're completely wrong. King Tong, don't worry. My teacher is very, very powerful. Lit Grove, Bona, Jalanash, Giselle, Moore, and Mord were all full of confidence in Chen Zhao. What a joke. If Chen Zhao couldn't solve the problem, all of them would be in vain. However, King Tong clearly didn't have any confidence in Chen Zhao. Even if all of them joined forces, they didn't think they had a 30% chance of winning. Not to mention Chen Zhao's casual attitude. In his opinion, this was a sign of arrogance and ignorance. As for Pian, she didn't know Nicole Neptune, but she trusted King Tong. Since King Tong was so cautious, it meant that Nicole Neptune was really terrifying. Mr. King Tong, it's really okay. My teacher is very powerful. No one in the world is my teacher's match. King Tong couldn't take Lit Grove's words seriously at all. Lit Grove had been saying this all the time. King Tong and Pian had never refuted it. After all, everyone had their own idol. There was no need to correct them. But it was different now. They were about to face one of the most terrifying witches in the world. At this time, the yacht had already approached. On the yacht, there were two figures, one big and one small. Compared to the terrifying Nicole Neptune, Quebec looked like a bamboo pole. In fact, before marrying Nicole Neptune, Quebec had a pretty good figure. He was 185 meters tall and had beautiful muscles. But after marriage, Quebec had been squeezed dry by the ruthless Nicole Neptune. Compared to Quebec, Nicole Neptune was the opposite. He was 2 meters tall. 999% of the people in the world could not grow so tall. On top of that, he had hundreds of kilograms of fat on his body and that ridiculously big mouth. Great, this is perfect. With so many people here, I won't have to eat for more than 10 days. Nicole Neptune's face was full of joy when she saw everyone on the deck. Nicole Neptune grabbed the skinny Quebec and jumped onto the deck of the Hydra. When Chen Zhao saw the moving piece of fat jump onto the deck seemed to be slightly dented. He immediately felt that it was on fire again. Quebec was like a chicken in Nicole Neptune's hands. Such a strong man. Seeing Chen Zhao's body, Nicole Neptune's eyes suddenly lit up. Asian, be my husband. I like you. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao and shuddered uncontrollably. Chen Zhao's face darkened. If you want to fight, then fight. Why is she teasing me in public? Suddenly, Chun Zhao sensed a familiar aura from Nicole Neptune. Looking at Nicole Neptune's extremely ugly face filled with desire, Chun Zhao opened his mouth and licked his tongue. Chun Zhao frowned. Does this woman have the bloodline of a glutton? Although it was very faint, to the point of being negligible. But because of the bloodline, the woman looked a bit twisted. Although she still had the appearance of a human, her insides had probably changed due to the bloodline of gluttony. If you don't agree, I'll eat you up. Hurry up and decide if you want to accept my love or not. Usually, when gluttons met, they would either be superiors and subordinates, blood relatives, or devour and be devoured. However, Chun Zhao really had no appetite for this woman. Chun Zhao would rather devour a demon that was 100 times uglier than Nicole Neptune than let this woman enter his body. It wasn't just because she was human, but also because she disgusted him. I want you. I must have you. If you don't agree, I'll eat you up. You're mine. Nicole Neptune reached out her thick arm and grabbed at Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao raised his hand and grabbed Nicole Neptune's right arm. Even though their sizes were many times different in the spiritual world, size wasn't an absolute difference in power. In Chun Zhao's eyes, Nicole Neptune was still too weak. Chun Zhao pushed his hand away. Go away, stupid pig. Hearing that, Nicole Neptune was instantly enraged. What did you say? What did you call me? You dare to call me stupid pig? You're dead. You're dead. I'm going to eat you. I'm going to pull out your flesh, swallow everything, and then defecate. Nicole Neptune's face was ferocious, and she let out a deafening roar. King Tong and Penny's expressions changed too. They felt their scalps go numb. So scary. In their eyes, this woman wasn't human anymore. She was a beast, a monster. Nicole, you're hurting me. Let go of me. Quebec yelled. His thin body felt like it was going to be crushed by Nicole Neptune. Useless trash. I'm tired of you. Now it's time for you to make your final contribution. Nicole Neptune suddenly raised Quebec before her. You, what are you doing? Nicole, I'm your husband. You can't do this to me. Quebec realized that things weren't going well, but he was firmly grasped by Nicole Neptune. He couldn't struggle. Nicole Neptune's power wasn't something a human could possess. Nicole Neptune's mouth opened wide and kept opening. After tonight, you're no longer my husband. Help! Help! I don't want to die. Don't eat me. Don't crack. Quebec's cries for help stopped abruptly. His head was stuffed into Nicole Neptune's mouth. Please remember the original domain of this book, Nine Heavens Divine Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1508. Quebec's hands and feet were still moving, but there was no sound anymore. Suddenly, a beam of golden light shot at Nicole Neps. It was King Tong who had attacked. He had used his Eye of the God. Ever since his fight with Nicole Neps more than a decade ago, King Tong had been thinking about how to defeat Nicole Neps. Later, he realized that Nicole Neps' biggest weakness was when she was eating. But today's attempt disappointed him, even made him despair. Nicole Neps was unharmed. Even with a person in her mouth, Nicole Neps could still speak. Don't worry. It'll be your turn soon. Hee. After swallowing her husband, Quebec, Nicole Neps's stomach seemed bigger. Other than that, there were no other changes to her body. However, her aura had become even more powerful and terrifying. Now it's your turn. Nicole Neps grinned at Chun Zhao. The third thing Nicole Neps hated was people disturbing her when she was eating. The second thing she hated was when someone rejected her love. What she hated the most was people calling her a pig. Unforgivable. Chun Zhao, on the other hand, looked at Nico Neps with interest. Nicole Neps's glutton bloodline was too thin, but Chun Zhao actually saw another way to use it in her. Chun Zhao's glutton bloodline could be used to absorb and talk. However, after eating someone, Nicole Neps used the person as her battery. She didn't absorb the person's magic power. Instead, she used the person as a spare tire. In other words, as long as she kept eating the enemy in battle, and as long as the enemy wasn't strong enough to kill her instantly, her magic power would almost never run out. So, under normal circumstances, she couldn't win. Perhaps he should find a chance to ask Beelzebub Zophi. With his strength, he should be able to teach him more ways to use the glutton bloodline. Just then, Nicole Neps reached out to Chun Zhao again. Hiss! Blood splattered. Ritter Grove, who was standing closer, was splattered with blood. Chun Zhao lifted the flabby arm that was almost as thick as a person. Nicole Neps took 2 steps back in shock. She didn't scream, but the fat on her face was shaking. The pain of losing his arm pierced through his heart. Glutton bloodline. Unfortunately, you're still too weak. Chun Zhao looked at Nico Neps indifferently. King Tong and Pain were furious. How terrible! How'd he do it? In the blink of an eye, Nicole Neptune's arm was torn off. Teacher, don't spill blood on me the next time you fight, Lit Grove complained. Ritter Grove was sure that Chun Zhao had purposely splashed the blood on him. This woman has the bloodline of the king of gluttony, one of the 7 demon kings of hell. Although it's very faint, it's still a good thing. If you touch it, there's a small chance that it will change your bloodline. You don't understand Master's good intentions. Really? Lit Grove looked surprised. Of course it's real. In fact, other than the little handsome guy's bloodline, which would be reduced to ashes with just a touch, there was no other bloodline. If someone accidentally touched the 7 deadly sins demon king's bloodline, there was a small chance that it would change their bloodline. Of course, Nicole Neptune's glutton bloodline was extremely thin. Changing her bloodline in this way was no different from winning the lottery. From a biological perspective, it was similar to changing genes through chemical reactions. Of course, the purer the demon's bloodline, the more intense the chemical reaction. At the same time, the stability of the modified party's genes had to be considered. If a normal person received the blood of a demon king, they would probably have a hemorrhage. If one's genes were stronger, there wouldn't be many changed genes. Jalanash secretly wiped the blood on the ground with her finger and then smeared it on her face. Do you think you'll definitely win? Nicole Neptune stared at Chun Zhao fiercely. Of course, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. You still have a trump card, right? Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Nicole Neptune looked at the position of her broken arm. Suddenly, her body started shrinking. It was very obvious. Then a new arm grew out from her broken arm. Payan and King Tong were both shocked. What kind of spell was this? It could make someone grow a broken arm? But to Chun Zhao, it wasn't strange. Slightly stronger demons could regrow their broken arms. Nicole Neptune, on the other hand, had already started demonizing again because of her glutton bloodline. After her arm grew out, her body was still shrinking. Chun Zhao saw that Nicole Neptune's fat was rapidly decreasing. In a few minutes, Nicole Neptune's body had shrunk by half. A pair of metal blade-like structures grew out of her arms. Nicole Neptune's aura became stronger. Her body became more solid and less bloated. You're the second person who forced me to do this, Nicole Neptune said. Nicole Neptune had purposely kept her fat. To her, the more fat she had, the more powerful she was. Because of the special nature of magic, she could only increase her fat beyond biological limits by eating humans or creatures with magic power. If he was a normal person, how could he grow to a weight of 400 kilograms? Facing Chun Zhao now, she had to use her trump card. Other people burned their life forced to fight. She didn't need to work so hard. She only needed to burn her fat. Then I'll try to be the first person to kill you. Nicole Neptune moved. King Tong and Payan both felt a terrifying aura coming at them. Even though Nicole Neptune wasn't targeting them, they still felt a suffocating pressure. Nicole Neptune raised her right arm and stabbed at Chun Zhao along with the blade-like structure. Clang! The next moment, Nicole Neptune's right blade was broken by Chun Zhao. At the same time, Chun Zhao punched her. Nicole Neptune was sent flying. Her face was almost deformed. King Tong and Payan were in disbelief. How terrifying was this Asian? Facing the terrifying Nico Neps, he didn't move a single step from start to finish. Nicole Neptune was both angry and shocked. The pain from injury on her face stimulated her nerves. You like to eat people, but do you like to be eaten? Chapter 1509. Nicole Neptune's expression changed drastically. You eat people too? Nicole Neptune felt that only someone with the same magic as her could have such terrifying combat power. However, she didn't understand why Chun Zhao wasn't fat at all and still had a perfect figure. But she didn't have the courage to continue fighting. She turned around and dove into the water. "Go after her. Don't let her get away." King Tong yelled anxiously. But no one, including Chun Zhao, was in a hurry. They all leaned against the railing and watched Nicole Neptune, who was flopping in the water. "Wow, this fat pig. He's so big, but he can still swim so fast," Bona exclaimed. Nicole Neptune had already burned half of her fat, but she was still 2 or 3 times the size of a normal person. At 200 kilograms, she was still a giant. But Nicole Neptune wasn't slow at all in the water. "Aren't you going after her?" King Tong said excitedly. "If she gets away, there'll be endless trouble." In his opinion, Chun Zhao and the others were unmoved by Nicole Neptune's escape. They were letting the tiger return to the mountain. Lit Grove and the others didn't think much of it. Could that fat pig run away from Chun Zhao? Should we make a bet on how long this pig can swim? Chun Zhao asked. "Teacher, what's the bet?" "If anyone guesses correctly, then our association's group trip this year will go to the place where the Scarlet Church gives out missions. I'll help you get a mission." Everyone's eyes lit up. King Tong and Pian felt that Chun Zhao was too arrogant. None of the 98 places where the Scarlet Church gave out missions were simple. The difficulty of each one was about the same as besieging the ghost ship. Ever since the missions were given out, they hadn't heard of any place's mission being completed. Even in the spiritual world of Huaxia, 8 missions were still there. There were many participants, but none of them had the ability to complete the mission. Now, Chun Zhao was boasting that he could do it himself. King Tong and Penny were both surprised that Chun Zhao had defeated Nicole Neptune. But Nicole Neptune didn't expect that Chun Zhao would defeat Nicole Neptune. But to say that Chun Zhao could complete the mission given by the Scarlet Church alone was wishful thinking. "I bet she can swim for 20 minutes. I bet 30 minutes. I bet she can swim for an hour." Except for King Tong and Pian, everyone else made a bet. "2 of you," Chun Zhao said. "Bring out the food. We'll eat while waiting for the results." King Tong and Pian found that no matter how hard Nico Nep swam, she could not swim more than 100 meters away. She was always swimming within 100 meters. Everyone sat on the deck and watched Nicole Neptune as they ate and drank. "What's going on? Is it water magic?" King Tong asked in confusion. Nicole Neptune had swum for so long, but she hadn't even swum 100 meters. It was definitely abnormal. So it was only natural that he thought it was magic. But wasn't this man an enhancer? How could he also know water magic? To be able to affect a distance of 100 meters, this magic ability should not be weak. The most important thing was that this spell had to be maintained, and it would consume a lot of magic power. No wonder they all looked like they knew this would happen. It turned out that he was certain that Nicole Neptune would not be able to escape. Finally, Nicole Neptune's thoughts stopped. "Teacher, look, she's not moving anymore. Let's see how long it takes." 28 minutes. "Who's closest?" Chun Zhao asked. "Jalanash. Jalanash, when we go back, pick a place for our trip this year." "President, I don't have to participate this time, right?" "Why not? If you win this time, you can get 2 rewards." "Why not?" King Tong felt that Chun Zhao was strong, but he was a bit arrogant and ignorant. Even the 24th and 25th generations of the Scarlet Church only received 1% of the magic power of the 23rd generation of Blood Mary. Among them, the 24th generation of Blood Mary was a rather famous witch. Even she could only take 1% of the magic power. How could others take 2? Suddenly, Nicole Neptune's scream came from the sea. Everyone saw Nicole Neptune swim back, but the water she swam through was dyed red. "President, if I fought her, would I be able to win?" Jalanash asked curiously as she looked at Nicole Nep's figure. "Your single target magic attack isn't strong, and your group magic attack is too scattered, so you can't beat her," Chun Zhao said. "But it doesn't mean that you're not as strong as her. It's just that you're taking a different path." "Help! Help me! I don't want to die." Nicole Neptune swam closer and began to ask for help. Everyone laughed, as if they were laughing at Nicole Neptune. Just then, a black shadow flashed below Nicole Neptune. What's that? King Tong vaguely saw the huge shadow. The next moment, Nicole Neptune was dragged into the sea. This time, Nicole Neptune did not float up again. Everything returned to silence. Only King Tong could vaguely see something in the darkness because of her divine eyes. Just then, another yacht approached. What's going on? Why don't I see Nicole Neptune? Is she not here? Rode was confused. The yacht approached the Hydra. Wang Sieg and Rode saw Chen Zhao and a group of people eating and drinking on the deck, but they did not see Nicole Neptune. But next to the Hydra, there is a speedboat and a yacht. Mr. Chun, what a coincidence. We meet again, Wang Sieg said to Chen Zhao at the bow of the boat. Yeah, what a coincidence. Do you want to come over for supper? No, thanks. Wang Sieg shook her head with a smile. By the way, Mr. Chun, did you see anyone suspicious? Suspicious? No. Okay. If you encounter anyone dangerous, remember to let us know. We'll come as soon as possible. Okay. Chen Zhao nodded. Chen Zhao had a good impression of Wang Sieg. But now, he did not have such a good impression of her. She was the only one he had told about Dawson's death. But now that the news had spread, whether intentionally or not, it was definitely related to her. Moreover, the radar on the Hydra had already detected that Wang Sieg's boat was nearby. They were clearly watching the fire from the other side. Chen Zhao did not know what their intentions were. Whether or not they had ill intentions, Chen Zhao didn't want to deal with them anymore. Chapter 15:10. Chen Zhao wouldn't turn hostile immediately. After all, he didn't have any evidence. But this didn't mean he would pretend to be courteous with them. Chen Zhao preferred to deal with people directly instead of deceiving each other. After they were full, Chen Zhao arranged a room for them to rest. There were many empty rooms on the Hydra. Apart from the biggest room, there were also many luxuriously decorated suites. Everyone could finally enjoy the night. Wenko, what do you think? Nicole Neptune's dead. Dead? Impossible. Rode exclaimed in shock. According to the people I arranged on Roma Island, Nicole Neptune's yacht is the one docked next to the super yacht. The yacht was there, but Nicole Neptune was nowhere to be seen. Could it be that this is all a scam? Maybe Dawson isn't dead. Nicole Nelson and Quebec aren't dead either. Wenku shook her head. They're all dead. How can you be sure? The area around the super yacht just now was filled with a rather dense magic aura. Someone was releasing high-intensity magic or fighting there. Because Chen Zhao and the others were in the sea, they didn't feel the magical aura. But for someone like Wenku Sieg, who was very sensitive to magic power, it was very obvious that she had entered that sea region. Moreover, both Wang Sieg and Rode could feel his hostility. The next time they met, they probably wouldn't be friends anymore. The two couldn't help but sigh and regret. They thought that the plan was good. Not only could they test Chen Zhao's strength, but they could also intervene when Chen Zhao and Nicole Neptune were both injured. They could kill Nicole Neptune and save Chen Zhao, making him owe them a favor. It was a perfect plan that killed many birds with one stone. In the end, before they could arrive, Chen Zhao had already killed Nicole Neptune. Chen Zhao's strength was revealed. He was stronger than Nicole Neptune. But in the end, they lost a powerful ally. The next day, everyone woke up one after another. Sleeping in a luxurious suite was much better than sleeping in the wilderness and feeding mosquitoes. One by one, they got up energetically. Brother Grove, Sister Jolinash, Sister Bona, when did you come? Gerlin propped her head on the table and looked at everyone curiously. Last night. Little Gerlin fell asleep last night. That's why I came. He reached out and wanted to pinch Gerlin's face too. But then he remembered Chen Zhao's warning and touched Gerlin's head instead. You're right, Gerlin said with a smile. Other than Chen Zhao, no one could pinch Gerlin's face. Whoever dared to pinch little Gerlin's face would be beaten to death. Okay, Chen Zhao was definitely joking. However, if they dared to break the rules, Chen Zhao would definitely punish them. Apart from King Tong and Pian, little Gerlin was already very familiar with Lit Grove and the others. Brother Grove, little Gerlin caught such a big fish yesterday, little Gerlin said as she spread her arms and gestured. Little Gerlin is the best. The crowd was not stingy with their praise for little Jerlin, but it was obvious that Chun Zhao or Fei Lai had helped pull him up. Lit Grove stood up and went to get another bowl of porridge. Grove, you've already eaten 3 bowls. Do you still want more? I slept too well last night. My appetite is super good today. Don't eat too much, Fei Lai said. Your teacher said that there's going to be another big meal at noon. Since the touring ghost ship was expected to arrive tonight, they didn't plan to go to Noma Island so soon. Chun Zhao also planned to take this opportunity to entertain them well. I'm not hungry, but I just want to eat. Forget it. You can eat if you want. Chun has a big appetite too. Grove, are you an enhancer like Chun? Fei Lai wasn't a witch, but she more or less knew some branches of magic. No, I'm a semi-support type. Just then, Chun Zhao also entered the dining room. He took a breakfast and sat down. King Tong and Pian had no idea about Fei Lai's so-called big appetite. But when they saw Chun Zhao put a pot in front of them, they were instantly speechless. Was this guy a glutton? Of course, Chun Zhao's family prepared plenty of food every day. Anyway, they wouldn't let their guests go hungry. Halfway through eating, Chun Zhao suddenly looked up at Lit Grove. Huh? What's wrong? Grove, you seem to have changed. What? Teacher, what changed? You seem to be stained with that woman's blood last night. You really won the lottery. You have the bloodline of the king of gluttony. Everyone exclaimed and looked at Lit Grove. Teacher, what did you say? I feel the bloodline of gluttony in your body, Chun Zhao said. It's very faint, but it did appear. Teacher, you mean I have the bloodline of gluttony? Lit Grove didn't know how to face it. As one of the demon kings of hell, the king of gluttony is the representative of evil, King Tong said cautiously. His bloodline may affect your mind. You better be careful. Don't listen to his nonsense. There's no such thing. Chun Zhao waved his hand. King Tong's face was instantly filled with embarrassment, but Chun Zhao didn't think so. Whether it's bloodline or power, there's no good or bad. Unless you become an irrational beast, you're still you. Take our association's Helios, for example. She's the inheritor of necromancy. Is necromancy evil? Is Helios evil? You just have to control your mentality and don't lose your sense of propriety because you suddenly gain power. The so-called power will change your mind. That's just a lie to kids. Compared with King Tong, Lit Grove certainly trusted Chun Zhao more. However, King Tong was very dissatisfied with Chun Zhao's words. Mr. Chun, I don't agree with you. Just like Nicole Neptune, can you say that she's not evil? Whether or not she's evil has nothing to do with her power. I've seen monsters that can bewitch people's hearts. Those monsters don't rely on power, but magic imprints. They use magic to harass and torture people, not pollution. It's like sunlight. For the entire earth, sunlight brings warmth and life, but it also brings death. The nature of power is the same. What determines power isn't where it comes from, but how it's used. Chun Zhao firmly believed that one's environment determined one's nature, not power. Chapter 15:11. Chun Zhao couldn't explain King Tong's stubbornness in a few words. And Chun Zhao wasn't interested in arguing with King Tong. For example, Beelzebub, who followed Chun Zhao, was a subordinate of the king of gluttony and great lord Beelzebub Zophi. Were they evil? According to human rules, they were indeed evil. But was it caused by their bloodline? No, it was caused by the environment of hell. They had to survive in hell in one way or another. In Chun Zhao's opinion, hell was also the law of the jungle. The strong were respected and the fittest survived. In fact, the seniors in the spiritual world, and even those who had lived longer, should understand that there was no such thing as evil power in this world. After noon, they were going to Arma Island again. Chun Zhao provided a lot of things, including tents, food, water, and all kinds of tools. There were more people on Arma Island today. There were only 100 people yesterday, but there were 3 or 4 times more people today. There were probably 400 or 500 people. There are so many people. Even if we work together, I'm afraid we won't be able to get many achievements. Jalanash wasn't confident. If it was a one-on-one battle, she might be confident. But there were too many people on Arma Island today. The others are about the same, King Tong said. To be honest, if your teacher is willing to take action, we'll have a higher chance, Pian said. She had the same thought as King Tong. She felt that Chun Zhao and his disciples were a bit ignorant and fearless. But she had to admit that Chun Zhao was indeed very powerful. Even on this island, he could be a top-notch existence. However, no one thought so. If Chun Zhao took action, they wouldn't have a chance to do anything. They had seen how terrifying Chun Zhao's strength was. The only time Chun Zhao was serious, and the only time he was injured was when he fought with the three-headed dragon. Unfortunately, only Moraz was lucky enough to see that battle. However, compared to the three-headed dragon, all spirits weren't that scary. Moreover, their main purpose this time wasn't the reward of the Scarlet Church, but the trial. That was what they really needed. If it was just a reward, they only needed Chun Zhao to take action. In the association, the most important thing was actual combat ability. Even Adus dared to enter the Tower of Trials. Therefore, to Lit Grove and the others, the most important part of this operation was the actual combat experience, not the rewards. King Tong and Pian began to draw the magic circle again, while Jalanash and the others stayed to help them. Of course, when the Tauren arrived, they would fight on their own. King Tong and Pian also trusted Jalanash and the others. The people on Dharma Island were basically preparing for the battle, because no one knew if the Tauren would come tonight. They could only rely on some supernatural spy satellites to investigate the Tauren. After all, it was impossible to send planes or ships to investigate. Once planes or ships were used, they would most likely be attacked by the Tauren. The durian could not be detected during the day and would only appear at night. The factor that decided whether the Tauren would come tonight was the airflow in the Pacific Ocean. If he didn't appear tonight, then he would definitely appear tomorrow night. However, in the afternoon, the wind around Mama Island became stronger. This was a sign of the arrival of the durian. Every time the durian appeared, it would be accompanied by a storm. Dark clouds began to cover the sun. The entire Dharma Island was shrouded in dark clouds. On the Hydra, Chun Zhao looked up at the sky. Will it come tonight? The waves were also a little bigger, and the Hydra was shaking a little. It wasn't strong, but it still had some effect. Chun Zhao controlled the seawater to reduce the impact on the Hydra. Recently, Chun Zhao had been thinking about how to fill his body with magic and at the same time control his body so that it wouldn't fly. This problem had been bothering Chun Zhao for a few days. Although flying has always been a pursuit of mankind since ancient times. However, when he really had the ability to fly but couldn't control it, it would feel very bad. If every cell in Chun Zhao's body was filled with magic, he would fly directly to the stratosphere. However, after a few days, Chun Zhao still had no clue. Chun Zhao thought about carrying weights. It was fine. Wearing something that weighed a few hundred kilograms wouldn't be a burden to him. However, life would be very inconvenient. For example, sitting on the sofa, lying on the bed, or driving. Take the Porsche 918 at home, for example. If he wore a few hundred kilograms of weight, the wheels would probably crush him. What Chun Zhao needed was a way that wouldn't affect his life and could be controlled. Basically, Chun Zhao's current state was that his mass density was lower than air. In theory, it was similar to a hot air balloon. So, it wasn't really flying. If he was in an environment without air, he wouldn't be able to fly. From a scientific perspective, what was real flying like? Breaking free from gravity through propulsion was one. Another was anti-gravity, but it couldn't be achieved with current technology. It was still a concept. However, Chun Zhao suddenly thought of an idea, or rather, a possibility, that was to change the quality of magic. The most fundamental reason he could break free from gravity was that magic changed the quality of every cell, allowing him to break free from the restraints of gravity. The quality of magic was lower than the quality of air. This was the fundamental reason. So, what if the mass of magic was greater than air? Changing the quality of magic was equivalent to compressing the magic to a higher density. In other words, it would increase his own magic power. From a scientific point of view, it was possible. But it wasn't science. It was magic, a supernatural power. Could he really do it? Chen Zhao wasn't very confident. Every cell was like an oxygen bottle or a gas tank. The tank was filled with gas. Oxygen bottles and gas tanks had the same technical principle. Through air compression, oxygen and gas could be compressed into a liquid, increasing the density of oxygen and gas. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. If it was a liquid, he could control it. Maybe this method would work. But there was still the most important step. How could he compress magic? Chen Zhao reached out and gathered a ball of magic in his palm. Then his palm started shrinking. The magic started shrinking and the density started increasing. A ball of liquid appeared. Chapter 15:12. He could use his own power to compress mana, but cells couldn't possibly compress so much. Now, Chen Zhao was at a bottleneck again. The mana compressed by Chen Zhao's brute force was already in a liquid state. But once it left his palm, it would immediately return to its original gaseous state. It's like a gas can, but it's liquid when it's in the can. But once there was a vent, it would be released in gaseous form. No, Chen Zhao had another idea. It wasn't impossible. He could use other cells to compress mana. One cell didn't have that much power, but what if he had more cells? He could first use other cells to compress the mana in a small area and then cover his entire body. Chen Zhao first tried with his palm. He opened his palm and started controlling his muscles, sending mana into his palm. Soon, the mana in the cells in his palm started to liquefy. It was more active and powerful. The cells were excited as if they'd been injected with stimulants. Chen Zhao started compressing other parts. This wasn't difficult for Chen Zhao, as long as he could control the muscles in each part. The small world started absorbing spiritual qi like crazy. This was Chen Zhao's first time growing mana at such a crazy rate. Gradually, his entire left palm had completed the liquefying process. Chen Zhao tried to clench his fist. It was twice as heavy as before. However, the cells in his left palm contained 10 times more mana than before. However, this transformation process was very slow and complicated. Chen Zhao used a few hours to completely compress the mana in his palm. If he wanted to compress all the cells in his body, he would need at least a month. At the moment, the power in his left arm had even surpassed that of his right arm. After all, Chen Zhao was right-handed and his right arm had the bloodline of gluttony. So, his right arm had always been many times stronger than his left arm. But now, for the first time, his left arm surpassed his right arm. But it was already getting late. The weather, which was already overcast, now felt even more gloomy and gloomy. But for the people on the Hydra, they're not affected. Chun, the ghost ship turret will appear tonight, right? Failai wanted to see it. I think so. Which direction will the durian come from? The port is in the direction of Arma Island, Chen Zhao said. So, Turin should be approaching Arma Island from that direction. From here, we can wait for Turin to pass by us. Chen Zhao wouldn't let the Hydra get too close to the ghost ship. At least, he couldn't let the Hydra be in the ghost ship's attack range. Of course, it wouldn't be too far. After all, they were here to watch the show. If it was too far away, there would be nothing to see. When the sky turned completely dark, the waves on the sea became even stronger. In the distance, the island of Lima was pitch black. The sea breeze blowing from the west was filled with a trace of restlessness. Just then, Chen Zhao saw a glimmer of light in the darkness in the distance. Here it comes. Chen Zhao had an idea. Failai was an ordinary person, so she couldn't see it. What Chen Zhao didn't expect was that Jerlin was the second to see it. Dad, Mom, over there. There's a ship coming. The Spectre ship is coming, little Jerlin shouted excitedly. Where? Failai stood on her tiptoes, but she still couldn't see anything. Only when the ship was a few kilometers away did Failai see it clearly. Ordinary people couldn't see spirits, but the Spectre ship wasn't a spirit. It had a physical body. However, because the ship carried countless evil spirits, it actually covered the ship's physical body. The wind and waves were getting bigger and bigger. Failai finally got a clear view of the Turin ghost ship. It was a huge ship that was around 150 meters long. For that era, this ship was already very large. Even now, it could be considered a big ship. However, no matter how big it was, it couldn't escape the corrosion of time. Right now, Turin was like a decaying old man, or rather, a corpse that had long rotted away. Large amounts of seaweed hung on the ship's body, as well as many marine objects. Chun, why is there seaweed all over Turin? Turin can't be detected during the day, Chun Zhao said. Probably because it sinks into the sea during the day. Chun Zhao felt that Turin was a bit too close to the Hydra, so he secretly controlled the seawater to push the Hydra away from Turin. Fei Lai could see the full appearance of Turin, but she couldn't see the countless evil spirits around it. Those evil spirits were like fireflies, constantly wandering around the surroundings. Chun Zhao didn't even know how many evil spirits there were on the ship. Chun, do you hear something? Sound? Chun Zhao shook his head. Do you hear something? Like someone's whispering in my ear, Fei Lai said. Chun, will I be cursed? Chun Zhao looked at Fei Lai. She wasn't afraid at all. Instead, she was eager to try. To be honest, Fei Lai was really looking forward to it. After all, she'd seen the world and knew that Chun Zhao was very powerful. He would protect her. You're not cursed. Chun Zhao rolled his eyes. But what you heard should be the howls of evil spirits. It's just that you can't see or hear evil spirits, so it sounds like someone is whispering in your ear. If you don't know what's going on, you'll be easily driven crazy by this sound. I'll get someone to give you a cleansing potion later, so you won't have nightmares. Being able to see the evil spirits on the ship and not being able to see them were two different concepts. The evil spirits killed, tortured, devoured, and attacked each other every day. They'd long been twisted beyond recognition. They were stronger and scarier than normal evil spirits. Their rationality had long been destroyed. All that was left was madness. The ghost ship didn't come toward the Hydra. Instead, it flew parallel to it and brushed past it. Although it was around 2 kilometers away, Chun Zhao was still on guard to ensure that no small fries would come. Turin didn't change its course. Instead, it went straight toward Arma Island. But Chun Zhao could feel that there was a very powerful evil spirit on Turin. Even that evil spirit had noticed the Hydra. The aura reminded Chun Zhao of the powerful evil spirit he'd encountered in New York, the grandfather. Okay, the ghost ship has passed. Go into the cabin. Chun, how long will the ghost ship stay on Arma Island? I heard that it'll stay for 6 hours, Chun Zhao said. I heard that Turin used to stop at Arma Island for 6 hours to unload. Chapter 15:13. It's coming. All the psychics on Roma Island shuddered. They were excited. Afraid? Yes. Facing a ghost ship, no one dared to say that they could escape unscathed. What's more, it was the Turin. Before the Turin reached the shore, everyone's hearts were shrouded in a layer of haze. Terrifying. The oppressive aura made people sink to the bottom of the valley. I don't want to be here. Why am I so stupid? Why did I come here to take risks? This is suicide. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here. Suddenly, a psychic shouted. Before the Turin approached, he had already lost control. He was devoured by fear. The surrounding psychics had different expressions. Some sighed, while others sighed. Of course, there were also strong-willed people who were unmoved. Jalanash, Bona, Lit Grove, Giselle, Moore, and Morid had all gathered on the beach. At this time, the strong wind blowing toward the island was already difficult to resist. Even if some people were not shocked by the oppressive aura, they could not stand up straight because of the strong wind. With the howling wind, the evil spirits moved with the wind and rushed onto the island. The Turin was already close to the former dock. In an instant, the scene became even more chaotic. Then we'll fight on our own now. Be careful. Don't let the president down, Jalanash said. The first batch of evil spirits that rushed to the island with a strong wind were called unclean sailors. They were stronger than ordinary evil spirits, but they didn't even have the right to board the ship. They could only linger around the Turin and wander with it. They were stronger than ordinary evil spirits in that they could use physical attacks. They held rotten swords in their hands. And with the help of the strong wind, they were faster. They were standard to measure psychics. If they couldn't even resist their attacks, there was no need to stay on this island. They would either be killed by the unclean sailors or consider how to escape from this battlefield. The first wave of unclean sailors had already landed, and there were already casualties. King Tong and Pian were now in the forest, which was not affected by the strong wind. They could also deal with those unclean sailors calmly. Their strength belonged to the advanced standard on this island. They were not the top, but they were stronger than most psychics. Even Pian could easily deal with the unclean sailors. King Tong, look over there. Is that Jalanash? King Tong turned her head and saw Jalanash. Well, it's indeed her. Why is she standing there? Where are the others? Pian was worried. After all, in her eyes, Jalanash and the others were just kids. Could it be that she ran out of magic power? When they fought yesterday, she used spells that cost a lot of energy. Mr. Chen also said that Jalanash's spells are all large-scale spells. I'll stay here. Go over and have a look. Ask her if she needs help, King Tong said. Because he had already activated the four symbols demon subduing formation, it was not convenient for him to leave the formation, so he could only let Pain go. Oh no, there are a few unclean sailors rushing towards her. Pian immediately exclaimed and hastened his pace. However, they were more than 20 meters away, and they were in the forest, so it was not easy to walk. And those unclean sailors came with the wind. Those unclean sailors rushed towards Jalanash, but Jalanash did not react at all. The unclean sailors were about to hurt Jalanash. Suddenly, a burst of red light burst out of Jalanash's body. She didn't seem to do anything, but those unclean sailors were instantly turned into ashes. Hiss, what kind of magic is that? It's not magic. She's wearing some magic prop. King Tong said, it's full of blazing power. It's not an ordinary magic prop. At this time, Jalanash had come over. Miss Pian, Mr. King Tong. Jalanash, what can I do for you? Where are your other companions? They are all fighting on their own, Jalanash said. I forgot about it during the day. These are the 2 pendants I got from the president today. They are for you. Pendants? King Tong and Pian saw Jalanash take out 2 pendant chains. There were 2 bone pendants hanging on the pendant chains, which looked like they were polished from the bones of some animal. They were polished from a dragon tooth. Because there were too many of them in the association, a dragon tooth could be polished into hundreds of dragon tooth pendants. As long as they were slightly enchanted, they would have a pretty good effect. Even the dragon tooth could be used to make bullets for Klaus and the lightning squad, because there were too many of them. So these 2 dragon tooth pendants were really not worth much. Of course, they were worthless to the members of the association. They were priceless to the outside world. King Tong and Pian took the dragon tooth pendants and immediately felt a scorching aura from them. But it was not scorching. It just made the 2 of them feel hot. It took away all the coldness in their bodies, and they felt that the recovery of their magic power seemed to be smoother. It increased the recovery speed of their magic power by at least 10%. This pendant should be a magic prop, right? And it didn't feel like the kind of inferior goods that cost hundreds of dollars. Jalanash, is this good? Don't worry. We have a lot of them. They are of no value to us. To the 2 of them, Jalanash's words sounded like she was comforting them. In fact, Jalanash was telling the truth. Not only did everyone in the association have one, but even their family members had one. It had a good effect on exorcising evil spirits and avoiding disasters. Of course, the pendants given to the relatives of the members of the association were all disguised so that they would not be killed because of the exposure of the dragon tooth pendants. Well, I won't stand in the way here and steal your monsters. I'll go somewhere else, Jalanash said with a smile. Both Pian and King Tong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jalanash came with good intentions. How could they not know what was good for them? Moreover, the pendants she gave to the 2 of them were probably worth a lot of money. Be careful, too, King Tong reminded them. In the eyes of King Tong and Pian, Jalanash and the other children were very good in all aspects, except that they had a low vision and were a little arrogant. They were not weak, had a strong mind, and were also kind. Well, let's not make a fool of ourselves. There are so many unclean sailors. The Turin should be docked, and the second wave is coming, King Tong said. Unlike the first wave of unclean sailors, The second wave was a real storm. The lost souls at sea were the backbone of the ghost ship, and they were also the largest in number. They were constantly looking for a way to get rid of themselves. Since they could not be purified, they only hoped to be killed. Chapter 15:14. The lost souls of the sea were the original passengers or sailors of the ghost ship. Dream follower. They were bound by death, but they couldn't rest in peace. They sought eternal disappearance, but they couldn't escape the fate of being dominated. Compared to the unclean sailors, the lost souls of the sea were more violent. They were also intelligent and wouldn't charge irrationally like the unclean sailors. The casualties of the psychics on Roma Island began to increase. The unclean sailors at the beginning were just appetizers. After eliminating the unqualified psychics, they attacked in groups. On the other hand, the lost souls of the sea were like an army. They attacked in an organized manner. Instead of attacking one after another, they attacked in groups. Behind the lost souls of the sea, there was a particularly tall, evil spirit, the ghost captain. He could command his army and turn the lost souls of the sea into a real army. Moreover, after they killed the enemy, they would attach themselves to the enemy and control the enemy's body to attack. This made them even more of a threat. The psychics on the beach began to retreat. A large number of psychics were injured or even killed. This was the difference between organized and unorganized. The ghost captain had experienced countless battles. From his life to his death, he couldn't rest in peace. He didn't need to shout on the battlefield. His intentions could be conveyed to the entire battlefield with a thought. That's impressive, Moore said with emotion. After saying that, Immerse created a doppelganger and directly rushed to a team of 6 lost souls of the sea. He actually preferred this kind of team of enemies. The efficiency of those unclean sailors from before was too low. The 6 lost souls of the sea immediately waved their swords and slashed at Moore's clone. The clone pounced on one of the lost souls of the sea. The magic dragon scale armor on the clone immediately came into play. The scorching heat burned the souls of the dead at sea who had lost their way. The other souls of the sea slashed at the clone crazily, as if they wanted to chop it into pieces. However, they didn't need to do that. The clone suddenly exploded, blowing all 6 souls of the sea into pieces. Currently, Moore was still using suicidal attacks. The difference was that the bombs used were no longer the ordinary magic bombs of the past. Now, they were bombs mixed with dragon scale powder, and these bombs were made by Ruan Fashabin. Ruan Faxi had originally planned to use it as a dragon's breath, although it would not be as powerful as a real dragon's breath. Compared to the association, it was cheaper to build, more powerful, and more convenient to carry. Unlike in the past, they didn't need to bring hundreds of kilograms of explosives in a single battle. Each portion of a dragon's breath was only the size of a finger. However, it was still very terrifying. The 6 dead souls of the sea did not even leave a trace behind. Immerse shuddered. Although the self-destruction of his avatar did not cause any substantial harm to himself, the moment the avatar died would still bring about a very uncomfortable feeling. Immerse looked at where the Turin was docked and mumbled, "If I can get to the Turin, I'll definitely earn a lot of merit points." This kind of suicidal attack was, of course, more effective when there were more enemies. Although killing 6 souls of the sea at once was already a very good result. However, Immerse was not satisfied. After all, he had to pay with his life every time. However, Immerse did not have any close combat abilities. His avatar would not be able to get to the Turin before it was killed and self-destructed. Moreover, the ghost captain was not stupid. He would not let Immerse's avatar get close. Immerse was very cunning. His original body had been hiding in the forest. He would not give the souls of the sea a chance to surround him. Just like when he was in the trial tower, he had to keep running and constantly release his doppelgangers to self-destruct in order to pass the first level of the trial tower. He claimed to be the 3rd fastest man in the supernatural organization. Apart from an elite and Chen Zhao, he was the best at running. In fact, Klaus and the Lightning team were better at running than him. For example, Gaia was faster than him. Just then, a ball of fire fell from the sky. The fire did not explode. Instead, it splashed in all directions. The splashing flames surrounded a dozen souls of the sea. Hiding in the forest, Immerse saw Jalanash and immediately shouted, "Jalanash, I saw this place first." Only then did Jalanash see Immerse. "Fine, I'll go somewhere else." Jalanash pouted. Immerse really knew how to pick a place. Of course, this place would fall soon. Many spiritualists had retreated. Immerse could not stay here forever. Jalanash threw another spell and turned to leave. Just then, a few ships suddenly appeared on the sea. Jalanash and Immerse's attention was attracted by the ship's movements. What were they doing? They want to destroy the Turin with the self-destructing ships? Not just Jalanash and Immerse, but many spiritualists also saw this. Some were envious, while others were jealous. It was indeed a strange move. But at this moment, a loud and orderly voice came from the Turin. It was like a choir singing in unison. But many people's expressions changed. It was not a choir singing. It was the dark spirit witches releasing spells together. It was the sound of magic incantations. The incantations were loud and eerie. Those who heard it could not help but shudder. Immediately afterward, tentacles extended from the front, back, left, and right of the self-destructing ships, entangling them. Boom, boom, boom. The ships all self-destructed before they could get close to the Turin. Immerse, get out of here quickly. Those are dark spirit witches, and there seems to be a lot of them, Jalanash reminded him. Dark spirit witches were not ordinary evil spirits or witches. They were a combination of witches and evil spirits. They used to be spiritualists who attacked the Turin when they were alive. But after their deaths, their souls were captured by the Turin and enslaved and dominated. At the same time, they gained more power than when they were alive. A terrible magic power came from the Turin. The Turin's most terrifying dark spirit witches had finally moved out. Hundreds of dark spirit witches chanted the same incantation, then left the Turin and rushed to Ma Island in all directions. The dark spirit witches were the most powerful and also the most difficult to deal with on the Turin. And there were also a lot of them. What a pity. I knew this would happen. Wink, Sieg, and Rode both looked disappointed. Chapter 15:15. Sieg's idea was to attack Turin from the sea. It was a good idea, but she clearly underestimated how terrifying Turin was. The individual strength of these dark spirit witches were already stronger than most spiritualists. This was also why Turin was so terrifying. A large number of dark spirit witches flew out of Turin. These dark spirit witches had all sorts of strange spells. Giselle controlled a few flying balls, which were all covered in dragon scales. Against normal evil spirits, there was no need to use the machinery of the flying balls. They only needed to charge forward and tear those evil spirits to pieces. What a beautiful little girl. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Giselle turned around and saw that it was an old witch. Her face was full of wrinkles. She wore a witch hat on her head, had a hooked nose, long pointed ears, and a mouth full of rotten teeth. She held a walking stick in her hand, and her body emitted a foul smell. Giselle's gaze sharpened, and a flying ball attacked the old witch from behind. Giselle was not the little girl who was chased and had nowhere to run. Whop, the old witch let out a strange cry, and her body suddenly exploded. However, her body seemed to be made of mud, so Giselle's attack was not fatal. The old witch quickly reconstructed another body. "Little girl, I'm going to eat you," the old witch screamed. "Eat me? If you have the ability, come at me." Giselle was not afraid at all. The 6 flying balls around her all extended spinning blades. Even a spirit body had powerful destructive power. A single touch could tear a spirit body apart. The old witch was about to cast a spell, but her body was already smashed. The old witch reconstructed her body again, and another flying ball shot out of nowhere and smashed her body again. The old witch again. The old witch angrily shouted, "Do you dare to give me time to cast a spell?" Although she could reconstruct her body every time, in reality, each flying ball caused a certain amount of damage to her spirit body. She was not truly immortal. She was only a dark spirit witch. Her body made of mud could only block some physical attacks for her, preventing her spirit body from directly coming into contact with the flying balls. For a spirit body, being hit by a flying ball head-on was almost the same as being hit by a metal ball. Giselle wasn't stupid, was the one who cast the spell on the old witch. This old witch was obviously a voodoo witch. He didn't have any self-defense spells, so his defense was entirely dependent on the magic dragon scale armor. Magic dragon scale armor, on the other hand, wasn't particularly effective against voodoo spells. If the old witch released her voodoo magic, it would be hard to guarantee that he would not be injured. If he were to ask for help, it would be extremely embarrassing. Moreover, there was a rule in the supernatural organization. Sparring and fighting were two different things. If it was a duel between two companions, then it would naturally be fair. However, if anyone went easy on their opponent and was defeated, they would be punished. Giselle didn't want to challenge the rules of the supernatural organization with stupid ideas. Enemies had to be crushed to death to make people feel at ease. What's more, the enemy had their own merits. Looks like I can't waste any more time. I need to deal her a fatal blow. Just as the old witch was forming a new body, a flying ball suddenly exploded and a large net covered the old witch. It wasn't an ordinary net, but an enchanted one. It had the power of lightning and fire, and Giselle had helped her pour the lightning power into it. Ah! The old witch screamed. She was bound by the net, and her spirit couldn't escape. She could only endure the lightning released by the net. The terrifying power evaporated the water in her mud shell and disintegrated the old witch's spirit at the same time. Done. Giselle touched her chin. Although she'd gotten rid of the old witch, she still lacked a one-hit kill. She should think about it after going back and come up with a move that could kill in one hit. Giselle circled the forest a few times and encountered many battles. But Giselle didn't interfere. After all, everyone here was her competitor. As long as they weren't companions, she didn't think that she needed to help. Along the way, Giselle killed a dozen more sea souls and 2 black spirit witches. Giselle became more and more aware of her own weaknesses. Actually, Giselle had this feeling before, but it wasn't clear enough. This battle had made her deeply understand this point. If it was against a weaker opponent, it didn't matter if she used a killer move or not. But against an opponent that was similar or slightly stronger than her, another killer move was necessary. Mord wasn't far from Giselle. At the moment, he was fighting with 20 black spirit witches. Although he was facing more than 20 darkened spirit warlocks, Mord could be said to be doing it with ease. Of course, it didn't mean that Mord was stronger than Giselle. It was because his magic was suitable for large-scale battles like this. This was because the same tactic could be used against one enemy, and the same tactic could be used against a group of enemies. Therefore, he needed to attract a few black spirit witches and then attack. This would be more efficient and save more mana. Mord scattered the magic seeds, and everything within a few hundred meters became Mord's territory. Countless magic plants drilled out of the ground. Some are full of dangerous exploding fruits. Some are vines that looked like tentacles, man-eating flowers, voodoo fruits, and so on. Anyway, Mord's skill turned the area into a charaba. Of course, that was only true for the monsters on the Turin. But for others, the entire Mama Island was also a charaba. Not everyone had Mord's abilities. Most of them couldn't even protect themselves. Some people thought highly of themselves, while others planned to fish in troubled waters. But the result was obvious. Turin was far more terrifying than they had imagined. The black spirit witches weren't the most terrifying. The 4th wave of monsters had already come down from Turin. The 4th wave of monsters was a group of deep-sea demon skeletons. They lived deep in the sea and were unknown. They were like God's prank, a half-formed piece of plasticine. Its body was as black as ink, with countless heads and tentacles. They extended down from the Turin and started attacking the spiritualists in a frenzy. They were individuals but also a whole. Outside the coastline, Wenk Sieg turned around and asked, "How many ships have we lost?" 7 ships. Almost 50 casualties, Rode said solemnly. Could Turin really be destroyed? Turin's main forces were released towards Mama Island. That was why they could sneak attack from the rear. But so far, they had lost so many ships. They didn't have much power left. Chapter 15:16. In modern society, dozens of people dying was already a big deal. Even in a war zone, a medium-sized firefight might not result in 50 deaths. But now, 50 of Wang Xig's men had died. She was also having a headache. Just then, a dozen black tentacles reached out from the sea. They were part of the deep-sea demon bones. Although they were not as big as the ones that landed on Nightmare Island, they were still a huge threat to the ships on the sea. The black tentacles pulled on a ship, which soon toppled over. The crew fell into the water. The heads of the deep-sea demon bones reached out from the sea and dragged the crew underwater. Another dozen people died tragically. Wang Xig's expression became more and more serious. The last battleship was also destroyed. "Bring the big guy out," Wang Xig ordered. "Wank, you're using age, man. We've lost so many people. We can either leave with the losses or show our trump card," Wang Xig said coldly. Although Road was the captain, Wang Xig was still the one making the decisions. Road's eyes flickered. After a long time, he finally nodded in agreement. "Go, push that metal cage out." A few crew members entered the cabin and pushed a 3-meter-tall cage out. The cage was covered in talismans, and inside the cage sat a creature whose entire body was pitch black. The creature's eyes were blood red. "Alman, help me attack that specter ship." Wang Xig looked at the creature called Alman in the cage, her eyes filled with disgust. "Humans, is this how you pray?" Egelman glanced at Wang Xig with disdain on his face. "You're just a prisoner. This isn't a prayer. It's an order." "Huh. Although you've imprisoned me, what gives you the right to order me around?" Ageman's tone was also filled with arrogance and disdain. Wang Xig took a pendant from her neck. In the center of the pendant was a walnut-white gem. Seeing Wang Xig move the pendant closer to her, Ageman immediately wailed, "Take it away! Take it away! Take the angelic crystal away!" I said, "You can't disobey my orders." All right, I obey," shrieked Agelman. "Then let's begin. Help me attack that specter ship." "No, I can't unleash my power in this cage, unless you tear off all the talismans on the cage," Agerman said. Wang Xig sneered. How could she believe such words? Tearing off the talismans that were suppressing Alman was equivalent to releasing him. What could they use to restrain him then? "We'll lend him our mana," Wang Xig said. Road, Wang Xig, and the 4 spiritualists on the ship grabbed the iron pillars of the cage and sent magic power into it. Every time they had driven Ageman, it was through this method. After Agerman accepted the magic of the 6 spiritualists, he tried to touch the metal railing, but it was as if he had touched a soldering iron. He quickly retracted his hand. A ferocious glint appeared in Egelman's eyes. Sooner or later, he would break free from this shackle and kill all these humans. "Ageman, hurry up." Ageman looked in the direction of the specter ship turret. Suddenly, a red ray shot out from his eyes. The red ray streaked across the specter ship turret, leaving 2 shocking scratches on the ship's hull. Impressive. They had worked hard for the entire night. Their achievements were not even as impressive as this demon's attack. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself with others. But in less than 10 seconds, Alman's red beam stopped. Why did it stop? "Continue," Wang Xig said unhappily. "Humans, your mana can only last for so long. If you want me to continue, give me more mana." Damn it. Wang Xig's expression, which had just brightened up, instantly turned gloomy again. Even though she knew that Ageman was just brushing her off, there was nothing she could do. Want to send out more mana? They had already used up 70% of their mana. If they continue to send out more mana, they might fall into a coma. Just then, there was movement on the Spectre ship turret. A figure flew up from the Spectre ship turret and charged toward Wang Xig's ship. Bang! With a roar, the figure landed on Wang Xig's ship. A few people nearby were shaken and fell into the sea. Ageman! The figure recognized Ageman, who was locked in the cage. Ageman also saw the person clearly. TSK. Addo, you're here. The people around saw the person and realized that it was a skinny black man with strange patterns on his head and face. The black man had a slender and arched body. He wore metal rings on his hands and feet and held a wooden staff with a large head and small feet. It's him. It's him. He's the black slave who sacrificed Turin, the owner of Turin. That's right. This black man was Atto, the wizard who came from the African continent 300 years ago. He was the one who created the moving catastrophe, Turin, that lasted for 300 years. Behind Atto, there was a dark cloud that filled the air. If Helith was here, she would recognize that it was the mist of death. In mist of death, countless black souls were howling. These souls were not imprisoned by Atto. They willingly became a part of Atto, because these souls were his African brothers. They had all died on Turin. Before Atto boarded Turin, Turin had been a sinful trading ship. Hundreds of black slaves were transported to Europe and America every time, but half of them died on the ship. Their resentment lingered for a long time. Atto was the match that lit the fuse. Ageman was Atto's contract demon. Although Atto had been dead for hundreds of years, his consciousness still existed. Therefore, Ageman was not sent back to hell and was still wandering in the human world. In the end, he was captured by the Hunters and became a weapon of the Hunter organization. After 300 years, you're finally here, my master. Ageman grabbed the iron bars with both hands. Before, he did not dare to touch them. Every time he touched them, he would retract his hands. Now, he ignored the smoke coming out of his hands. He was pulling the iron bars apart. Ageman was a demon. He was not someone who was willing to be controlled and enslaved for 300 years. Every time the Hunters needed to use him, he needed to feed the Hunters' magic power. Every time, he would only hold back half of the magic power and silently accumulate power. In fact, he could have broken this cage long ago. However, Egelman knew that if he broke the cage, it wouldn't be long before he was caught again. Therefore, he had been enduring silently, waiting for Atto to come. He believed that Atto would come to him again. Finally, after 300 years of waiting, Atto finally came. Chapter 15-17. Everyone on the ship was enraged. Winksieg dove into the sea without any hesitation. Ageman had escaped, and Atto, the source of the calamity, had arrived. She couldn't deal with either of them. Ageman and Atto didn't care about other people's gazes or reactions. For Atto and Egelman, they were each other's fetters in this world. They only had each other in their eyes and nothing else. It was precisely because of this that Egelman had directly broken out of the prison. Atto, my master. Ageman crawled out of the prison and stood up straight. He suddenly grew to 5 meters tall and had a pair of demon wings on his back. Ageman, you really still exist in this world. Demon, go to hell. A crewman held a gun and fired at Ageman's head. The enchanted bullet hit Ageman's temple. Ageman's head tilted slightly, as if someone had hit him with a pebble. As for the injury, Ageman turned to look at the crewman. A red ray shot at the crewman and penetrated him. The red ray pierced through the deck and the entire ship without any obstruction. Seawater gushed up from the bottom, and the entire ship began to tilt. Some people were running for their lives, while others planned to fight against Ageman and Atto. Atto glanced at the crewman. It's too noisy here. Let's go back to my ship. After saying that, the death fog behind Atto shrouded the entire ship. The resentful spirits in the death fog tore and gnawed at the crewmen. In the blink of an eye, all the crewmen were gone. Only pools of blood and mutilated flesh were left. Egelman spread his wings and flew back to Turin with Atto. Fear, despair, helplessness, that was how Winksieg felt. Whether it was Ageman or the calamity Atto, what she felt was boundless despair. But it was this fear and despair that drove her to keep running. But after swimming for half an hour, she could not swim anymore. In a vast sea, no matter how hard she struggled, she could not swim to the other side. Suddenly, a light appeared in front of her. The Hydra. That was the Hydra. That was great. Winksieg had no other thoughts at the moment, only by swimming to the Hydra for help. On the Hydra, Little Larissa is crawling with difficulty. Jerlin, on the other hand, led her younger sister and climbed with her. Compared to Jerlin a year ago, little Larissa's physique was slightly weaker. Of course, everyone's growth period was different. It was hard to say who was good and who was bad. Feilai lay beside Chun Zhao on the deck with a pillow on her head. She didn't care how the two kids played. Even if they fell into the sea, they wouldn't have to worry. As long as Chun Zhao was there, anywhere was safe. Feilai was holding a copy of the Book of Changes. It wasn't a printed copy. She had bought it from Amazon for $2,000. The Book of Changes was an antique. At least, Chun Zhao had shown it to Old Turtle. Old Turtle also said that it was an old book. The Book of Changes should be a few hundred years old. There were also many annotations. Feilai's Chinese wasn't as bad as before. She could even take the CET 8 exam. She could even understand 70 to 80% of the ancient texts, which even Chinese people found hard to understand. Chun Zhao continued to compress the magic in his cells. Every time he compressed a part, the cells would store 10 times more magic. The small world would immediately replenish the empty magic. Now, his entire left arm had finished compressing. The magic in his entire right arm was equivalent to the magic in his entire body. Just then, Feilai put down the Book of Changes. "Darling, is someone calling for help?" Feilai asked, confused. "No," Chun Zhao said calmly. "It's probably just your imagination." "Fine." Feilai couldn't hear clearly either. After all, the waves were crashing endlessly. Feilai's physique had improved a lot because of Chun Zhao's strengthening potion, but her hearing was only slightly better than a normal person's. Feilai picked up the Book of Changes again, but after a few glances, she put it down again. "Chun, are you sure no one's calling for help?" "Maybe it's the battle on Noma Island," Chun Zhao said. "No, someone's really calling for help." Feilai was finally sure. Feilai put down the book and stood up. She was a member of the coastal rescue team and was very sensitive to people's cries. Sometimes when she was on the night shift alone, she would jump up instinctively even when she was sleeping. This wasn't because her senses were stronger than a normal person's. It was her so-called sixth sense. Feilai looked behind the yacht. Nothing? She ran to the other side. There was indeed someone. "Quick, Chun, the life buoy." As soon as Feilai finished speaking, Chun Zhao stuffed the life buoy over. Feilai froze. Indeed, this guy had heard the call for help. Feilai glared at Chun Zhao in annoyance. Chun Zhao was also embarrassed. "Throw it down, or else the woman will drown." In the water, Wang Xi caught the life buoy and Chun Zhao pulled her up. Thank you." Wang Xi trembled all over. "Wank, it's you? What's wrong?" Feilai was very surprised. She didn't expect it to be Wang Xi. Chun Zhao went into the cabin and got a hot drink for Wang Xi. Wrapped in a towel, Wang Xi sat on the ground, trembling. Her face was filled with terror, and her body couldn't stop shaking. "Wank, are you okay?" Feilai asked, concerned. Everyone could tell that Wang Xi was scared out of her wits. Feilai didn't understand. She wouldn't be scared like this even if she encountered a supernatural event. Wang Xi was a spiritualist after all. How could she be so scared? Also, didn't she have a lot of crew members? Where did they all go? Did the boat sink? Turin, the scary Turin. Wang Xi still hadn't recovered from the shock. Agerman, who had escaped from captivity, and the moving disaster, Addo. Woo-woo. Just then a horn sounded in the darkness. Wang Xi's entire body trembled. It was a horn filled with magic. It was a bugle horn made from bones. Wang Xi stood up abruptly and looked into the darkness. Turin. The Turin emerged from the darkness and rushed straight towards the Hydra. "Quick, run!" Wang Xi screamed. "Sorry," Chun Zhao said calmly. "The Hydra needs a few minutes to start up. We can't avoid it." Chapter 15:18. The super yacht was not a small yacht. Although it could be started with a press of a button, first they had to inject fuel. Then the engine would move from slow to fast. This was to protect the yacht's power. After all, the engine of a super yacht cost at least $10 million. It had to be protected and maintained very carefully. One Kasig looked at the Spectre ship, Turin, charging towards them. Her face was pale with fear. Despair was written all over her face. She didn't know if she was hallucinating, but Turin wasn't just a ship. Instead, it was a huge skeleton. Chun, did I see wrong? That thing looks like a skull? Feilai's impression was similar to Wenk Sieg's. It looked like a ship, but also like a skull. It's over. It's over. It's hopeless. The Turin was surrounded by countless unclean sailors. The souls of the dead at sea were celebrating on the deck. The Black Spirit, which was chanting madly. The horn of death sounded again and again, like a mournful song on the sea. Chun, what are you waiting for? Feilai said. The ghost ship is about to hit us. At the moment, Turin was less than 100 meters away from Hydra. Wenk Sieg sat on the deck, paralyzed. She watched Turin crash toward them in despair. Just then, Chun Zhao took a few steps back. Wenk Sieg looked at Chun Zhao in confusion. Was Chun Zhao planning to escape now? Abandon his woman and his child? Suddenly, Chun Zhao sped up and dashed out. Wenk Sieg stared at Chun Zhao with widened eyes. What a fast speed! What a great jumping force! Just then, a figure flew up from Turin. Wenk Sieg recognized the figure. It was Alman. It's over. He's seeking his own death. Chun Zhao and Alman were about to crash into each other. Suddenly, Chun Zhao reached out with his right arm and grabbed Alman's neck. Then the two figures fell. Boom! With a loud sound, Chun Zhao and Alman landed on Turin's bow. Turin's bow disintegrated. A quarter of the hull collapsed too. Turin, which had been moving forward rapidly, suddenly stopped. Shock filled Wenk Sieg's face. Although they were almost 100 meters apart, Wenk Sieg could still see it clearly. Chun Zhao stood on the shattered deck of Turin, holding Alman's neck with one hand. On the other hand, the unclean sailors on the Turin seemed to have lost their restraints and began to rampage uncontrollably. Many unclean sailors rushed to the Hydra. Wenk Sieg immediately prepared for battle. But just then, 9 waves suddenly exploded around the Hydra. 9 huge snake heads emerged from the water. Wenk Sieg's jaw dropped, her face full of shock. 9-headed Hydra? The legendary Hydra? Is this Turin's trump card? But the next moment, Wenk Sieg realized something was wrong. The 9 snakeheads that emerged from the water did not attack the Hydra, but attacked the approaching unclean sailors. The 9 snakeheads sometimes shot out white light, sometimes spat out green poisonous fog, sometimes spat out raging flames, and sometimes let out sharp hisses. Each head of the Hydra had a single attribute. Legend has it that the 9-headed serpent had an immortal body, and 2 more heads would grow out once it was chopped off. Wenk Sieg's face was full of shock. She suddenly remembered the name of the super yacht. Hydra? Is it because of this Hydra that this yacht is called the Hydra? Rumble. Wenk Sieg looked over and saw Chun Zhao fighting on the Turin. A beam of white light pierced through the Turin. Countless evil spirits were annihilated by the white light. The huge mast was smashed. The sound of the horn became rapid and disordered. Chun, do your best. Sink that ghost ship. Feilai waved her arms and cheered Chun Zhao on. But her voice clearly could not travel that far. Wenk Sieg's expression was completely frozen. Disbelief was written all over her face. Before this, someone had told her that there was someone in the world who dared to charge onto the ghost ship and challenge it alone. Then, Wenk Sieg would definitely slap the person's face and spit on him. Nonsense. Moreover, the ghost ship was called Turin, a moving catastrophe. But now, she had to believe it, because there really was such a person, and he was really going to do it. Just then, another black shadow appeared under the sea. A few huge bone spikes appeared from the sea and charged over from the side of the Turin. Wenk Sieg could not see clearly what it was, but she knew that it was definitely not an ordinary sea creature. The shadow under the sea did not completely come out of the water. Instead, it moved past the Turin. In an instant, the Turin was split in half. Wenk Sieg didn't know what expression she should use to look at the battle, because she couldn't understand this battle either. What was that underwater? Right now, Chun Zhao was destroying the Turin wantonly. But Chun Zhao was also in disbelief about the Turin. This was definitely the most powerful ghost ship Chun Zhao had ever seen. Even on the day little Larissa was born, The military ghost ship was not as powerful as the Turin. Ordinary ghost ships were even more incomparable. Chun Zhao could destroy ordinary ghost ships with a single mouth cannon. The most evil and craziest evil spirits Chun Zhao had ever seen were gathered here. Chun Zhao looked up at Atho, who was floating in the air. Atho the Calamity was holding a horn made of bone fragments in his hands, and he kept blowing the horn. The sound of the death horn was extremely loud. The horn also made the evil spirits on the Turin even crazier. The horn could also control the deep-sea demon bones underwater. The terrifying monster burrowed out of the water and used its body to pull the two parts of the ship together so that it would not sink into the water. Chun Zhao jumped up and grabbed the death horn. It seemed that the situation on the Turin was being maintained by this horn. Chun Zhao took the horn away. Atho was stunned for a moment. The next moment, it pounced at Chun Zhao with its teeth and claws bared. "Give it back." Chun Zhao slapped Atho's face. Atho fell onto the deck. Chun Zhao looked down at the Turin from above. Fist shadows. Chun Zhao punched out with both fists. Instantly, thousands of fist shadows descended from the sky. Each fist shadow was filled with great power. It didn't matter whether it was the Turin or the evil spirits. As long as they came into contact with the fist shadows, they would all turn into ashes. Even the deep-sea demon bones were smashed into pieces by the fist shadows. Smash, 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 smash. Under the fist shadow, everything was destroyed as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Chapter 15:19. If it was a year ago, Chun Zhao might not have been able to defeat Atho so easily. Atho was only as strong as Chun Zhao's enemy a year ago. Today, a year later, Atho, the Calamity, and Turin were no longer powerful enemies. Although Turin had been destroyed, Chun Zhao still kept attacking. In less than 10 minutes, Chun Zhao returned to the Hydra. Wang Xig's gaze toward Chun Zhao had changed. She understood how Dawson's ship had sunk. She knew how Quebec and Nicole Neptune had died. There were many pieces of Turin floating on the sea. They were real pieces. Not a single complete board could be found. Chun Zhao had destroyed Turin violently. Most of the evil spirits were destroyed by Chun Zhao in a destructive manner. Before returning to the Hydra, Chun Zhao had to start removing his magic power. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to land. Sometimes, having too much magic power was also a burden. Atho's power was on the same level as the grandfather. However, Chun Zhao had slapped him with his left arm that contained magic power. Although he wasn't destroyed directly, he wasn't far from death. Of course, to him, it might just be a relief. To be honest, in Wang Xig's eyes, Chun Zhao was the real moving disaster. Just then, a beam of high beam shone from the distance. Then, Chun Zhao's phone rang. "Teacher, we're here again." The beam of high beam was from the speedboat that Lit Grove and the others were on. Soon, Lit Grove, Jalanash, Bona, Giselle, Moore, Morid, King Tong, and Pian boarded the boat. Everyone's faces were filled with excitement. It seemed that they had enjoyed this trial quite a bit. "Is it over?" Chun Zhao asked casually. On the side, Wang Xi couldn't help but roll her eyes. "Don't you know whether it's over or not? No one in the world knows it better than you. Turin, which had been causing trouble for 300 years, was crushed by you." "Teacher, do you see Turin?" Litgrove asked. "I think it's in this direction." "Oh, these are the fragments of Turin," Chun Zhao said, pointing at the scattered pieces on the surface of the sea. "These are the pieces. That can't be right. Guild leader, did you really destroy Turin?" Giselle asked with widened eyes. "Yeah." King Tong and Pian muttered in their hearts. She thought that Chun Zhao was a nice person apart from being ignorant. Now, it seemed that he also liked to brag. As people who had experienced the battle just now, they knew how terrifying the Turin was. At the moment, Ma Ma Island was like a Shuraba. Those with strength could protect themselves. At least they could leave Ma Ma Island safely. Those who were slightly weaker would not lose their lives. However, on Ma Ma Island, many people were just fishing in troubled waters, thinking that they could get some benefits. This kind of person basically died very miserably Noma was not a drill, it was a real war. At least 100 people had died on the island. This man actually said that he had wrecked the turret. King Tong and Pian chuckled at this. Perhaps these fragments belonged to some sort of organization. They'd seen a wooden ship explode on the sea before. Someone must have tried to use a wooden ship to carry out a suicide attack. With just a few people on the Hydra, could they stop the turret? What a joke, unless they were on a warship. Even this time, they were able to protect themselves largely because of luck. Because they'd expected the battle to last for 6 hours. But in fact, the turret had stayed on Ma Island for about 3 hours. If it had really lasted for 6 hours, it was estimated that the number of psychics on Ma Island would have increased to 300, and it was impossible for them to be unscathed. Of course, it was not accurate to say that they were unscathed now. A few of them still had some minor injuries on their bodies. Mr. Chun, then you and the Turin must have experienced an earth-shattering battle, right? King Tong teased. Wangxi glanced at King Tong. She could hear the sarcasm in King Tong's tone. She could not help but sneer. If it had been before today, she would probably have found Chun Zhao's words ridiculous. But now, she could not laugh no matter how hard she tried, because Chun Zhao was telling the truth. She had never known that there was such a big gap between her and the real top experts. There was no doubt that Chun Zhao was one of the top spiritualists. Yes, it was quite exciting. Chun Zhao nodded. He could hear the distrust in King Tong's tone, but he did not intend to explain anything to King Tong and Pian. Show me the spirit's notebook. I'll see your records. The 6 of them all handed the notebook to Chun Zhao. Go and eat something. You've been through a battle and should be hungry. No one refused. They all ran to find food. Chun Zhao sat down on the ground and started reading the spirit's notebook. Soon, everyone came to the deck with food and drinks. Everyone enjoyed the night view and the sea breeze. At the same time, they were exchanging their thoughts and experiences from the battle. Jalanash, Morid, come here for a moment. The two walked up to Chun Zhao. President, what are you doing? Your records seem to be about the same. Morid is slightly higher. Jalanash was a little surprised. She did not expect Morid to have a better record than her. Then I'll have to congratulate Morid. Jalanash was competitive, but she was willing to admit defeat. If she lost, she lost. There was nothing to argue about. Yes, I heard that the merit in the spirit's notebook can be given to others. Morid, my spirit's notebook belongs to you too. With the merit from my spirit's notebook, the reward this time should be ours. Guild leader, can you lend me your heroic spirit's notebook? Chun Zhao handed the spirit's notebook to Jalanash. Jalanash opened it and was stunned. She suddenly looked up at Chun Zhao. President, did you really destroy Turin? Well, in fact, I was just going to do it casually and gather some merit points. As long as the people of our association can get the rewards, it would be enough. But I didn't expect that when the Turin left, it was heading towards my ship. If I didn't destroy the Turin, the Hydra would have sunk. Jalanash and Morid were speechless. This Doling was really courting death. If they had changed their route slightly, even if they just brushed past the Hydra, they would not have ended up like this. Why did they have to crash into Chun Zhao's ship? Chapter 15:20. The trial was over. Everyone on the ship was relaxed, except for Wangxi. She wasn't in a good mood. The team she'd led had suffered heavy casualties. She was the only survivor. When she returned to the headquarters, she'd definitely face a heavy punishment. But this had nothing to do with Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao had already been merciful enough to save her. As for what she'd face, it had nothing to do with Chun Zhao. The next day, the Hydra returned. Jalanash, how do we give a notebook to the Scarlet Church? There's a person in charge of the Scarlet Church in every mission area. You just have to give it to them. Jalanash felt that Chun Zhao was too cruel. He didn't even leave any soup for them. Actually, other than the 98 portions of magic power, the Scarlet Church also gave some encouragement and rewards to those who performed well but couldn't reach first place. For example, the Turin ghost ship encirclement operation. Roma Island was actually the first stop. There were 3 more stops after that, all of which had many spiritualists gathered. Some arrogant or ambitious ones waited at the first stop, Roma Island, or the second stop. The general mentality of these people was that they could do what others couldn't. Others felt that they had a better chance at the second stop, or that they could take advantage of the third stop. In the end, as soon as the Turin left the first stop, Roma Island, it was pushed into the sea by Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao wondered how the spiritualists at the next 3 stops would feel when they realized that the Turin was missing. Scarlet Church, Grandma. The 25th Blood Mary ran into the deepest part of the castle. For the 25th generation of Blood Mary, this was her favorite place to visit. Marna, why are you here? Have you finished school? The 23rd Blood Mary looked at her granddaughter with a benevolent smile. Marna Blood Mary was only 15 years old. She was just an ordinary high school student at school. No one knew her famous name. Of course, apart from the teachers, there were also Marna's bodyguards. The school belonged to the Scarlet Church. Many of the teachers were actually from the Scarlet Church. Marna's bodyguards were among her classmates. Even Marna didn't know of their existence. The Blood Mary of the Scarlet Church is inherited through bloodline. School is over, Grandma. I've already completed the grades you asked for. All 6 subjects are A+. You promised me that as long as I can get A+ in 6 subjects, you'll let me participate in a task. Mana pushed XCI's wrist coquettishly. Have you told your mother about this? If she agrees, then I have no objections. The 23rd generation had handed over all of the Scarlet Church's affairs to her daughter, the 24th generation. You're all like this. Mommy says that as long as you agree, I'll be allowed to go out. You say that as long as Mommy agrees, I'll be allowed to go out. Mana Bloody Mary crossed her arms in front of her chest unhappily. All right. If you really want to go, then go. At this moment, the 24th Blood Mary Pero Fiona Blood Mary walked in. Mom, Grandma has agreed to my suggestion. You have no reason to object now, right? Marna Blood Mary yelled excitedly. Pero Fiona Blood Mary glanced at her daughter and smiled faintly. Mom, I have something to report to you. Didn't I hand over all of the Scarlet Church's affairs to you? You can make all the decisions, XCI said. It's about the task you issued. What happened? Yes, a region has completed the mission, said Pero Fiona Blood Mary. Oh, is it China or Europe? XCI asked. In her opinion, only these 2 regions could have completed the task in such a short time. North America? What? Impossible. North America can't complete the task so quickly. XCI exclaimed. It's possible for other regions, but North America's task is to encircle the Turin. It can't be completed so easily. That's the truth. The person in charge of North America has received the notes and is now appraising them. I still think someone forged the notes. That's impossible. North America has only been assigned 1 task, but the difficulty of encircling the Turin can be ranked in the top 10 of the 98 tasks. Mom, it's just a ghost ship. Is it really that difficult? Pero Fiona Blood Mary asked in confusion. The Turin is different from other ghost ships. 40 years ago, I and 3 people from China worked together to destroy the Turin. In that battle, all 4 of us failed. However, the 4 of us improved because of that battle. All 4 of us reached an unprecedented level. Who are the 3 China people you mentioned? The leader of the Longhu Mountain sect, Zhang Tianyi, the great elder of the Maoshan sect, Huang Daolong, and Daoi Xiuhua, a lone cultivator. Pero, Fiona, and Bloody Mary gasped. All 3 of them were famous figures. However, Daoi Xiuhua and Huang Daolong had passed away. Only the leader of the Longhu Mountain sect, Zhang Tianyi, was left. Mom, what's so special about the Turin? Do you know who's in charge of the Turin? 300 years ago, the voodoo high priest of the African continent, Addo. The 4 of us met him. We couldn't kill him even when we worked together. To be precise, he let us go. He said that one day, when we are strong enough, we can kill him. What? He hoped that one of us could end his destiny, said XCI. He showed us his true power. It took me 30 years, which is to say, 10 years ago to understand the domain. Mom, you should be able to do it now, right? I'm too old. If I had comprehended it 10 or 20 years earlier, I might have had a chance. But 10 years ago, I was already more than 130 years old. Against an existence of that level, it's almost impossible to exert an advantage in numbers, unless it's an existence of the same level as him. That is to say, this person is forging the notes. Pero Fiona Blood, Mary frowned and asked. That should be the case. However, bring me the heroic spirits notebook. I want to verify myself, said 23rd Jin. Mom, Grandma, let me go to North America. I want to expose the liar's true face. Mana said, I want that liar to know how powerful the Scarlet Church is. Please remember the domain name of this book. Nine Heavens Godly Emperor Mobile Version. Chapter 1521. XCI and Pero Fiona turned a blind eye to Mana Blood Mary's request. Mother, according to what you said, apart from you and the three of them, no one can destroy the Turin. No, if there are enough people, it can be done. XCI shook his head and said with emotion, Addo the Calamity has already obtained his domain, but he hasn't completely obtained it. That's the power he comprehended when he was alive. After his death, he will never be able to progress. So, if someone reaches my level, it won't be too difficult to deal with him. Mother, can Master Zhang Tianyi do it? Of course he can, but he is a Chinese. Chinese believe in heaven, earth, king, family, and master. These five are the most respected people in China. They're the people they can kneel to. For Master Zhang Tianyi, although he isn't Addo's disciple in name, they are master and disciple in reality. So, he won't attack Addo no matter what. Mother, what about me? Can I see your domain? Pero Fiona Blood Mary asked. She knew how powerful her mother was, but her mother had never shown it in front of her. The only thing Pero Fiona Blood Mary had seen was her mother's vast magical power. It seemed endless. Pero Fiona Blood Mary had never seen her mother's magical power dry up. Especially the period from 10 to 5 years ago, it was the period when her mother was the most active. At that time, no matter how difficult the task was, it was a piece of cake for XCI. However, Pero Fiona Blood Mary had never seen her mother's domain. You're still far from it. XCI shook his head. That year, Addo the Calamity showed it to us because we were only one step away from it. That's why we were able to comprehend it and make further progress. But if I use my domain on you, it will be a lifelong shadow for you. XCI looked at his daughter and granddaughter with pity. Her daughter was already in her early 40s. It seemed that she was already very famous in the European spiritual world. In fact, it was more because of her status as XXII Blood Mary. If she didn't have this identity, she wouldn't be so famous. Their realms were too far apart. Even if she wanted to pass on more magic power to her daughter, she would not be able to enjoy it. Mother, what if I also reach that realm in the future? Who can guide me? I have already entrusted Master Zhang Tianyi from China. The 23rd generation sighed. Zhang Tianyi was much younger than her, and she estimated that Zhang Tianyi would probably live to her age. If his daughter really had that ability, then before Zhang Tianyi passed away, she would also have the opportunity to reach his level. However, if before Zhang Tianyi's death his daughter was still unable to reach the realm she had reached 10 years ago, then that realm might also become a legend. At least in Europe, no one could reach that level. However, Huaxia was more prosperous than Europe's supernatural world, so there might be one or two more in Huaxia. Mother, how much am I lacking? Pero Fiona Blood Mary looked at her mother unwillingly. The 23rd generation smiled bitterly. How much difference was there? He could make her collapse with a single thought. Was there any comparison? Grandma, Mother, say something. Let me go to America. I want to go to America. I want to teach that bastard a lesson. Don't even think about going to America. The 23rd generation said, I will arrange something in a few days. You can go to another place. Grandma, I want to go to America now. The 23rd generation didn't believe that her granddaughter would go to America just to teach a fraud a lesson. She didn't want her granddaughter to take risks. Turin was too dangerous. Unless it was her or Zhang Tianyi from China, no one dared to say that they could escape unscathed from Turin. Marna Blood Mary stomped away. Keep an eye on Marna, the 23rd generation said. Yes, Mother. Master, This is the notes from the person in charge of North America. According to the person in charge of North America, there is no trace of forgery. No trace of forgery? Is it a new technology? Pero Fiona Blood Mary picked up the notes. There were 2 notes in total. One of the notes had complicated records. It could be seen that the notes were written by a plant psychic with a high level. The battle process was also clear. However, when Pero Fiona Blood Mary opened the second book, she was stunned. Because this was a high-level note, the records were more detailed. Brute force killed Addo's contract demon, Agarman. Brute force destroyed Turin's bow and hull. The shockwave killed 12 unclean sailors and 23 souls at sea. Holy light impact destroyed a large part of Turin's hull. Killed 26 unclean sailors, 48 souls at sea, and 12 dark shamans. Took Calamity Addo's horn of death. Punches bombarded Turin. Turin sank. Punches bombarded Turin. Turin shattered. Punches bombarded Addo. Pero Fiona Blood Mary raised her head and looked at her subordinates. Has the headquarters verified it? Master, not yet. Turin should have appeared in the Gulf of Mexico last night, but it didn't. We haven't detected any trace of Turin in the past 2 days. Pero Fiona Blood Mary widened her eyes and looked at her subordinates in astonishment. You mean, if all the spirit numbers appeared, then there was no point in doing the appraisal. But Turin didn't appear again. She had to think about where Turin went. However, the battle achievements and merits recorded in this heroic spirit's notebook were too strange. She couldn't understand them at all. She had never heard of any magic attacks. Pero Fiona Blood Mary got up and walked out. She needed to show it to her mother. Perhaps his mother would be able to decipher the contents of the heroic spirit's notebook. She arrived at the residence of XEI. Mother, please take a look at these 2 heroic spirit notebooks. Huh? The one in charge of North America? Yes. 23rd generation picked up the notes of the heroic spirit and took a glance. Then, he took a deep breath. Have you investigated the identity of the person who handed over these 2 heroic spirit notebooks? No, they chose to hide their names. There's one in North America, too. I can't believe it. There's one in that place, too. 9 Heavens Godly Emperor mobile version. Chapter 1522. Mother, what's going on? Give out the rewards in North America. Also, ask the recipient to pass on a message. I want to meet him. He can come to me, or I can go to him and meet him in private. Mother, why? My life is coming to an end. Before that, I want to get more allies for the Scarlet Church and you, XEI said. He's on the same level as me, so the first thing we need to do is convey our goodwill. Speaking of this, XEI couldn't help but sigh. This was clearly the area with the least activity in the spirit world, yet such a person had appeared. If he knew that such a person existed in North America, XEI would have given out more missions in North America. But it was useless to think about this now. XEI hoped to use this opportunity to get to know the person. President, will the Scarlet Church go back on their word? Mord was restless after not receiving any news in the past few days. He hadn't thought about it at first, but now he was looking forward to it. After all, it was equivalent to doubling his mana. Who would want such a good thing? If the Scarlet Church wants to go back on their word, then we'll have to change our tour route this year, Chun said disapprovingly. The supernatural organization isn't the kind of place where we'll just admit our bad luck if someone goes back on their word. Chun didn't care about the value of the prize. Even if it was just a dime, he had to pay back what he owed. This was natural. Okay, remember to come tomorrow night, Chun said. It's Jerlin's birthday. Oh, got it. Just as Chun was about to go home, Little Grove ran to him. Teacher, I want to ask you how to use the glutton bloodline. How do you feel now? My appetite has increased by several times, and my body has also improved. I'm still hungry a lot. Try to compress the mana in your mouth, Chun said. Then learn an elemental spell, a low-level one. Then try to release it with your mouth like this. Jin raised his right arm and opened the mouth of gluttony. A huge electric arc shot out from the mouth. The greater the mana compression pressure, the more powerful the verbal cannon will be. Of course, there's another way to use it, and that is to absorb external attacks. However, your bloodline is too thin, so I'm afraid you won't be able to withstand the energy of external attacks. Oh, I see. Anyway, there are only two basic ways to use the verbal cannon. I just need to practice it repeatedly. Ritter Grove was also very satisfied with the Jima Island trial. Although his battle record was not outstanding, he had unexpectedly obtained the bloodline of gluttony, which allowed his strength to soar in a short period of time. Coupled with the flaw insight talent that he had awakened before, his current strength could be considered to have achieved some success. That was why he valued the gluttony bloodline very much. The entire society knew about Chen's gluttonous bloodline, so he was undoubtedly the most authoritative person in this field. Also, there are many special ways to use the glutton bloodline. You can explore them yourself, but don't use the disgusting ones, like eating people. I really can't stand it. Understood, teacher. Even he could not accept it, let alone Chun. Go tell Wes that I'm driving the society's truck. We need to prepare a lot of things for Jerlin's birthday party. Our car is too small. Teacher, let me help you. Ritter Grove volunteered. Jin thought about it and nodded. All right, let's do it. Chun drove the truck and went to the supermarket with Lit Grove. Because there would be many customers tomorrow, they had to prepare a lot of things. After arriving at the supermarket, Chun and Ritter Grove started their shopping spree. The beer was, of course, his own Dashin beer. Although Chun could actually get Denver to send dozens of cases of beer with just a phone call, Chun did not want to do that. After all, no matter how much beer was sent, it had to be recorded. For proper enterprise, even if it was through connections, it still needed to be recorded in the accounts. Dashin beer was currently in the market development stage and was developing very well. Chen Shuang hoped that he could keep this up. Thus, even if he wanted his own beer, Chen would buy it from the supermarket instead of calling. So even if he wanted his own beer, Chen would go to the supermarket to buy it instead of calling for it. The supermarket employees were all dumbfounded. They all thought that Chen also ran a supermarket. Chen and Ritter Grove worked for 2 hours and filled the entire container. Teacher, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Do you want to come to my place for a while? No, I haven't been home for 2 days. I plan to go home. No, I haven't been home for the past 2 days. I plan to go home. As soon as Chen got into the truck, he received a call from Guret. Chun, my boat has reached your Mirror Lake. Where's your house? How come it's gone now? Guret was shocked. Did I go to the wrong place? Why is it gone now? Gulai's face was full of surprise. Did I go to the wrong place? Guret had never been to Mirror Lake, and Chun didn't tell her the address. Chun, he slapped his forehead. I forgot. You're sailing the ship out to sea now. The typhoon last time blew away my villa at Mirror Lake. I haven't even had time to rebuild it. Due to the curse of her ancestors, Gulai was unable to go ashore. She could only wander the seas or islands for the rest of her life. Her connections and information on land couldn't be compared to her influence on the sea. After Chunzai told them the location of the Mingyue villa, he drove the truck home. However, just as the truck left the supermarket parking lot, the car in front suddenly stopped. Duong rear end? Chen's face darkened. He looked around. There were no surveillance cameras. That would be troublesome. The police and the insurance company would need to intervene to determine who was responsible for the accident. Chen got out of the car. He couldn't lose face now. 2 people got out of the car in front. They were both Asians with black hair, black eyes, and yellow skin. Before Jin could say anything, the other party immediately complained. One of the young men immediately pointed at Chun and yelled, "How do you drive? Do you know how to drive?" They were speaking Mandarin, so Chun felt like they had just left the country. If he was Chinese, he should be used to speaking English. How do you drive? This is the exit. You suddenly stopped. Are you trying to blackmail me? Chin retorted, compensate me. Otherwise, I will call the police. My car has surveillance cameras. Pull up load next chapters that you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.